frozen soul. Spending all my money on expensive clothes. What's it take to get me on the radio? Slow down for me, goddamn slow down for me. Icy boy, I'm an icy boy. Icy boy, the frozen soul. The suicide doors are looking gorgeous though. Icy boy, the frozen soul. The suicide doors are looking. Icy boy, with the frozen soul. The suicide doors are looking gorgeous though. Icy boy, with the frozen soul. The suicide doors are looking gorgeous though. Yeah, icy boy, with the frozen soul. The suicide doors are looking gorgeous though. Icy boy, with the frozen soul. Slow down for me, yeah.
Only aim for perfection, ain't no half stepping. I'm gonna take you back, spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Belly of the beast. There were days where I barely had sleep, but I had to work perfection. Ain't no half stepping. I'm gonna take you back. Spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. Big mobbing. In the city, plenty havoc causing. Do or die, it's either all or nothing. Best believe I'm leaving out with something. Anytime I got the crowd jumping. Throwing rage, you know they fist pumping. I'm the king of dysfunction. What would you do if you had my life? Work like me, had those stripes. Would you go hard just to have that ice? Lot of dudes still trying to have that price. Get a yo, cooking about to add that spice. Nowadays, dudes never had that fight. Wanna push your boom, better burst your pipes.
Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all, but this is how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is will you get back up when you fall. You better get up. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. I need you to get up. Get up. You witnessing a champ in the making, fueled by your passion for greatness. Yeah, but adversity and bad situations meet us in the middle of the paths that we taking. But it's what you do after that makes men. Will you quit or will you stand up and face it? Tell me, do you have what it takes to swing back when this life asks for the fade? Can you tell me you'll adapt to the change when the punch lands and it puts you flat on your face? After you wake, will you stand up and say, get mad, hit back, lit match to the flames? Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all, but this is how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is will you get back up when you fall. You better get up. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. I need you to get up. Get up.
Icy boy with diamonds on my frozen soul. Spending all my money on expensive clothes. Always sleeps through the day. It's these vices keep me awake. Yeah, I'm coming up with reasons for running with my demons. Yeah, they tell me that I need them. Now every other weekend I'm in West LA to flash my sweat in a mass display. The game goes on until I say so. It's what I'm paid for, to entertain you all. Icy boy with diamonds on my frozen soul. Spending all my money on expensive clothes. What's it take to get me on the radio? Slow down for me, goddamn, slow down for me. These kids just want my sanity. Watch me fall down, trending with the cool kids. I wear it if the shoe fits, yeah. Designer brand exclusive. I wear it once and lose it for the next best thing. One quick slip and then I'm out of frame. No one really seems to care though. Got an ego, can't explain. No. Icy boy with diamonds on my frozen soul. Spending all my money on expensive clothes. What's it take to get me on the radio? Slow down for me, goddamn, slow down for me. Icy boy, I'm an icy boy. Icy boy, the frozen soul. Suicide doors are looking gorgeous though. Icy boy,
Spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Belly of the beast. There were days where I barely had sleep, but I had to work more than competition. I can't live like the opposition. Living everything I dreamed of, doing everything you think of. The way I work, I'm on the brink of doing everything you dreamed of. Only aim for perfection, ain't no half stepping. I'm gonna take you back, spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mobbing in the city, plenty havoc causing. Do or die, it's either all or nothing. Best believe I'm leaving out with something. Anytime I got the crowd jumping, throwing raves, you know they fist pumping. I'm the king of dysfunction. What would you do if you had my life? Work like me, had those stripes. Would you go hard just to have that ice? Lot of dudes fall trying to have that price. In a yo, cooking about to add that spice. Nowadays, dudes never had that fight. When the push blue, better burst your pipes.
يلقى مكان فكان في دامج وحاول تضغط على
روب المخطبوط العراق موجود معانا ليخلص مدفع تواجد الايسبورت.
تكسر الوضع تاع اوبا حاليا على غرب لوحده بالصراط هذا الليد لم يكن في مكان مناسب. سكتر يا سكتر يا سكتر يا سكتر.
Welcome here to, of course, PMPL Arabia Full Split. We are joined by the one and only Imperium and myself, Highland Wolf, here for the final day of League Stage here. And if you want to keep an eye on your own teams and let us know who you're cheering out for, as always, you can use the hashtag PMPL Arabia and let us know on social media through YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok alike. As we say, hashtag PMPL Arabia. What are your favorite teams? Who are you appreciating and who are you rooting for going into this final day? Imperium, it's been a long time since you've been on broadcast, and I tell you something, you've missed a whopper of a weekend, and I'm excited.
Man.
I'm excited for you to be back on and get involved in all of this action again.
Yeah, it's been literally a week since I've been on broadcast. Not gonna lie, I haven't really checked out much of the action. Unlike the players, I got to take a bit of a holiday. I saw Red Hot Chili Peppers live, celebrated my girlfriend's birthday. Just did, did adult things and enjoyed myself per se. So yeah, it was definitely coming back to checking the overall standings between the second Super Weekend and the first day League Week 3. There's been a couple of surprises, and I'm excited to see what comes into today's games and what happens coming into the third and final Super Weekend.
Yeah, of course. So if you haven't joined us at the start of the tournament already, well, you can check out the format here, Imperium, where, of course, we are on our final league day, Imperium, and we are, as we say, bringing all of our 20 teams in one last time for, again, another 5 matches each, or for this day, should I say, where each match 4 of our groups will play, and it's all to get into this Super Weekend for one final time to get those final accumulation of points where they transfer into the finals.
Indeed, indeed. It's going to be a little bit happy to kind of get past the league days, no disrespect, but when you have all 20 teams scrambling, it can be a little bit hit and miss. It can be a bit hot potato per se, whereas getting into the bite of the Super Weekend is, to me, what really matters, and of course leading into the finals, much like the calendar, right?
Yeah.
We're getting towards the tail end, Highland Wolf, but it certainly is something that needs to be featured. We have the whole of the League Week 3 and then the finals coming up at the end of the month.
Yeah, 5th of July today. Keep in mind, tomorrow, the Wednesday, we aren't taking a day's break, and we will be straight into the Super Weekend. I won't be there, but you and Monica will be to start it off. And then after the Super Weekend 3, we have our top 16, and we see who gets crowned a champion later in July on the 21st to the 23rd of this month. Imperium is getting very close to what I feel like is the end of this tournament, and the prize money is beginning to become a real big piece of the puzzle. $2,500, as always, remember, to each of our teams competing. But the final Super Weekend, another $15,000 still up for grabs.
GEEKAY, man. GEEKAY have already picked up $7,000 from Super Weekend money alone. Never mind what could happen in Super Weekend number 3. Like, we've had 30 games or potentially 30 grand, and they've picked up a quarter of that. Just under a quarter of that. That's incredible for one team alone out of a potential 20, and what is a total of 19 teams who've played over the 2 Super Weekends alone. So incredibly impressed by GEEKAY. Like you said, that separate finals prize money, that also will play into the part as we come into the later stages of the month.
Yeah, I mean, GEEKAY have totally run away with the show, but I think below them, you always have to keep in mind that there are teams that don't feel as supernatural as GEEKAY, and you've got the squads like really NIGMA, NASR still vying in those top positions, but it's not even about that top spot that we've really been focusing on as we've come into the final few days of our league stage. It's all about the bottom of that table, Imperium.
It's all about the hunger to fight for that top 16 spot, and it all starts into getting into the final Super Weekend. These are all 20 teams participating, groups A to C, right on your screens, and it's a bit dangerous across the board. It's pretty safe to say for a few of these teams. Obviously, VISTA Gaming, the elephant in the room is the fact that they've yet to qualify for any Super Weekend. So even if they make it to this third Super Weekend, they have one of the biggest, if not the biggest, mountains to climb to make it into the finals.
Yeah, I think for Vista, it's going to be that long haul, but even for a few of these other teams like Herdwell, still SKYROCKET, even Falcons, of course, despite their good run last Super Weekend, all need to get a good run in every single one of these teams who've only competed in one Super Weekend, very much in the danger zone, Imperium, where these final day worth of points could not only decide who gets into the Super Weekend, but decide their fate too on the rest of this tournament.
Yes, exactly. And the teams, of course, that are vying for the final spot shouldn't really be thinking about the finals, right? And the most important aspect is that they're focusing on what is in front of them, what is the next step, and the next step is making it into that third Super Weekend. Don't run before you can walk. Don't think too far ahead, right? Because the reality is there's a stretch, there's a piece of rope, and those threads are being picked off one by one. And if those threads get too thin and it breaks, boom, you're falling down and you're not making it into the finals.
Yeah, let's check out our overall standings as well to have a catch up on where these teams left us off at the end of yesterday. So NASR Esports leading out the top of the tables from day one of our league stage, Falcons shortly behind them. And I think very important, as we said, we see some of these teams like Falcons, but also SKYROCKETs and the likes of also the only one on that top half of the leaderboard, because these, as we say, are the teams that matter.
For Falcons and SKYROCKET's Esports, more specifically, I understand why you say the only one, because out of 30 games, they've kind of only accumulated 137 points. So their average points per game is half of what is Falcons and SKYROCKET's realistically. I'm very impressed with the turnaround coming out from Team Falcons off the back of what was a very successful first Super Weekend for themselves in Super Weekend 2, picking up an average of 8.3 points per game over 15. That's exactly what they needed to do. And you could worry and you could think, oh no, a new league week, they might feel under a bit of pressure. But no, they came in swinging yesterday, picking up 2 chicken dinners.
And that's what we really want to see, is Falcons being able to step up and see that Falcons, I think we were expecting coming into the tournament too. I think also NIGMA, certainly a few of these other teams such as Major Pride, again, we have to look back towards that, I think, Super Weekend Imperium, where they also stepped up and showed us what these teams are really capable of, make sure that they had that ability to qualify into the finals. I think, though, for the other teams on the other half of the leaderboard, that's what really does concern me, because although we see a few of those names on the first half, many still on the second half fighting.
Exactly. No Cur 12 on the first page, no Vista, no CONQUEROR. Right, what happened to this team? You go back to PMPL Spring Split, and they were fighting week in, day out, day in, day out with the top spot. It was incredible how aggressive and how cohesive they were as a unit. And yes, they may have somewhat relied more heavily on Miramar. They were still competent enough in the other maps to make themselves count and put themselves into that position. As we move into the second page, again, I'm forced to ask, where are they in League Week 3? They didn't make it into Super Weekend 2, and they're all the way down in 14th place.
Oh, and it must be kicking them, because that was the 17th position that they fell into Imperium in that second week. And now they have so much work to do today because of that mistakes that they made last week. Only 19 points. And it's, I think, really concerning, more so about the difference in the way that these teams have been playing. So you've got a team like CONQUEROR who are struggling mainly for those elimination points, but even aggressive teams that like OOREDOO have the most elimination points on this second page with 16, just can't seem to get those placement points. And it's such a stark difference.
It's okay for them. I believe they'll be safe for this third Super Weekend. I like that you made that observation of the stark difference between placement points and elimination points. I still prefer to see that be the case, a little bit similar with POWR Esports. For 90th minute, it's a bit scary for them, because they're coming into today's games and in the Super Weekend on only 100 points across 15 games. So it really isn't that viable of what they need. And they, of course, require that second Super Weekend. It's a big task for all of these teams. At the end of the day, and we've both made note of it as we move on to the last page and highlight the 4 teams who are currently in the bottom 4. The standard in this PMPL Arabia Lobby of Full Split is incredibly high. They've all adapted, they've all grown, they've all gotten better, and today's going to be no different.
Look, I mean, as we check out that last page, that's really where it is so dangerous for these teams. And keep in mind, I think minus Rad and Triple, these two other teams, Kurd and 4K, I think Kurd on one hand, I obviously need to see them get into the Super Weekend, okay, to be able to make it into the finals as a possibility. I still highlight 4K, though, specifically, because 4K had one of the poorest results second weekend, and as much as actually their first week still enables them to get through into those finals more than likely, I think that 4K have been on such a downward decline since the beginning of that first Super Weekend Imperium, and I'm very concerned about the direction that 4K seem to be taking.
they've just been a generally hit and miss team across the PMPL Arabia so far. Not always in a bad way. We kind of gotta, give them credit for being as resilient as they have, and the fact that they made it into the first two Super Weekend is by no means a positive. At the end of the day, the glaring issue in 4K is that they're relying far too heavily on placing points. That will, when you have the shuffle and the mix of all 20 teams, that will be a bit more positive for them. But when you're talking about those Super Weekend games where the lobby's more compact, you have the same 16 teams, you require a higher level of strength, aggression, ability, and adaptability. 4K aren't showing that. So I worry about them leading into the finals. I worry about them and
Right.
what they haven't really shown, which is improvement.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking for. But what better way than to energize yourself than Monster Energy, our official energy drinks partner of the tournament Imperium. And I think for so many of these teams, energy is what these teams need to have, because it's a 5 games only left, as we say, for these teams. And keep in mind, today, we're playing 3 of those games on Miramar. And for me, I feel like Miramar, yes, Sandhawk is a volatile map, but so can Miramar be at times.
Yeah, Miramar is, to me, the toughest map in PUBG Mobile to really use your team's coordination synergy to the max is required in Miramar, and that's kind of to an extent what makes Conqueror Rack's lack of performance across this PMPL full split even more baffling, because Miramar has notably been their strongest map, and even then they haven't really transferred that synergy and competence that's required on Miramar onto the other maps. They beat okay in Sunhawk, but again, they didn't make it into the second Super Weekend, where it was majority, well, not majority, but more Sunhawk games that were played. So yeah, if there's any team that needs to take advantage of the Miramar games today, it is Conqueror Rack.
Look, as we also think about these teams need to make it in their success, what better way than also Grand Banquet in-game as well. Get ingredients to make your dishes and make more dishes. Let's share and spread our happiness, of course, Imperium, for all of these teams, and hope for them making it into a tournament. It's only, of course, until this week, until then, week after. So make sure you get in-game and get those rewards indeed. Imperium, I'm also feeling that in terms of these teams in success comes with also Erangel and Miramar as a whole. I feel like Erangel has been one of those more concerning maps, so is too for me. And I like the adaptivity that these teams are beginning to show, particularly through maps like Erangel, where you haven't seen it, but at least through the last week, me and Monica have been observing that there has been these adaptations by teams on who's playing, who's not playing for each of these games.
So then tell me, if you were to kind of put a bit of a weight onto
Right.
teams coming into today's games that are struggling in terms of the tail end of the Super Weekend games, who would you put that will make it through, and who would you put that won't make it through?
Well, while I think about those teams, Imperium, what better way also than in-game for yourself and getting those group purchase and draw for a discount for free every day. Make sure you log in regularly to get that as much maxed out as you can. Imperium, I feel like for me, some of these teams that have been more volatile, I would actually argue has been some of the likes of the teams that change their drop spot. So I'm looking more at the likes of 90th, for example, who have been solely changing their drop spots between the south and the north side. But also I think that Vista as well has been one of these interesting teams where they've been kind of altering the path that they rotate to in fighting R8 on that South Georgia Pole side. And that's not only been hectic for them, but also then coming into Gatka, the nature of those rotations is slightly more risky, and it's these kind of more risky rotations that I have been noticing more than not these teams have been making. It creates for those slightly more volatile games as we see phase 3, phase 4, phase 5 mark, and so on.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how much of a balance we're going to have between the adaptability and the risky rotations as we are getting into game number 1. It's the first game of the day. It's going to be on Miramar. Always excited to see this map play out. Like I said, to me, it's the hardest map for these teams to get the better of in the playing path. It's going to be okay. It's a little bit on the west, but for the most part, going from north to south, it does. To me, it's okay.
Yeah, I feel like most teams can get to exactly where they want. I think particularly compared to yesterday's Miramars, it's very good for squads like Falcons who want to head up towards this northern side, also Rad up in towards La Coperia. So there's no real issue, I think, for teams being able to make it where they want compared to getting caught out on these kind of vehicular rotations in the first 5 minutes of the game. On the other hand, though, I think it definitely depends on where this zone goes, because we have seen, at least yesterday, some kind of more fluctuant zones, which does cause a lot of problems for teams on Miramar, where they are quite stuck in their positions until later for those rotations.
Okay, so of course we have 4 groups playing in this game 1, right? Highland Wolf, groups A, B, C, and D. So that means Group E, Team Falcons, the only one, Vista Gaming and YALLA Esports are not into the mix for this game 1, so they're going to have to sit back, relax, and wait for the next game to get their feet off on the ground. And this phase 1, it is a little bit of a kick in the face.
Yes.
Comparative to the playing path. It's going to create that cluster of traffic around that western entry point of the circle, which in itself is within reason tricky enough because it's kind of Picado Hill that is that center point of the western side. So teams will notably either be going to the north or to the south of it, right? Very few teams will be entering through the center part of that hillside. Teams like GEEKAY could take advantage of that.
And I think that a circle like this, where you are more focused, I think on this northern and the southern rotations, where you have these teams that like to make go to wider rotations, Imperium, and particularly down towards kind of like Los Leones side, I see a few of those southern teams like Major Pride, Triple, kind of making footwork into getting into that more western side, or else rotating down in towards Puerto Parisio, as we know a few of those teams do like to go there in more of those eastern locations, which I think were also, to note, one of those few spaces by that plane path too that weren't as available straight away.
Yes. Oh man, Highland Wolf, it's been a week, man. But,
I know you're excited to get back in.
I feel a little bit rusty, right? Of course,
okay.
like riding a bike, you don't forget these things, but it also is a little bit like, wait, do I need the training wheels on a little bit? I'm excited though. It's the anticipation for what these teams are going to be able to pull up, and really who has the focus and the mental strength to push themselves into this third super weekend, especially the teams that need it, is a big task. It's a big ask, and I'm excited to see who's going to be able to get the job done.
Look, I love the party bus as always. We get it hype in onto our second day. Is it not a party bus? What do you call it?
Oh, no, it is a party bus.
I was going to say, like, you called it a party bus. I was like, hang on, man.
Okay,
like,
that's fine.
I'm like helping you right now.
Like I said, it's been a week, man. I've forgotten these things, you know? Like,
I mean, I could call it the beep bus, but they're not honking the horn, so it doesn't seem right. Like,
can't call it the beep bus. Yeah. What does Monica call it again?
Oh, Monica calls it something completely different. I feel like Monica's watching. I know she's watching, so she's gonna write it like later on, and we can like recall it.
Probably like a typical American, she'll like rename it to something else, because that's what Americans do, right? They just, they'll take a normal word like sweets, and they'll rename it to candy just because they can. Or they'll call a camper van an RV just because they can. Sorry, Monica, and to all Americans out there, but I mean, I had to point to that.
To be fair, you got to rip off the band-aid at some point, right? Because NASR also in fire already in its first phase zone. R8 going to be straight on in towards Happy and the Patron, and stuck in, I think, 2 different angles here as NASR trying to fight on 2 fronts, but they are struggling, and R8 with Cry just taking through that first initial elimination, now able to help out with a second, and Ali falls down, and unfortunately for NASR, they may be at the top of those standings, but not in this first game.
Damn, that was initially a solid kind of surprise play by NASR Esports, getting quite close to R8 on a rotation and catching him off guard to an extent outside of San Martin. And it was a great switch initially by Pitika, I believe. But if the whole team isn't really set up for that engagement, it's a wasted opportunity. And R8 turned it around in the right way, not without casualties of their own. And if you really look at League Week 3, they are in a little bit more of a dangerous position, currently lying in 15th in the overall standing. So R8 do need the points much more than NASR Esports.
And this is kind of the adaptations that I was talking about, Imperium, where a lot of these teams have changed their strategies. We've never seen RA do that to NASR in this tournament, despite the fact that they both drop in a similar location. So to get that edge of surprise factor, where RA, as we said, need those points to get into the next Super Weekend, and that's kind of the surprises that we've seen. And I think a note to say that we've seen more of those type of surprises, Imperium, more in this tournament specifically than the previous PMPL Arabias. And these teams feeling more adaptive by the day.
Teams are starting to rotate into this phase 1. Of course, with it being quite heavily on the eastern side, not only is that landmass kind of taken away quite heavily, we're looking at about 15 to 20% of that phase 1 circle is water. So it's kind of quite heavily on the eastern side, much more than we initially highlighted, right? So teams will be centering it around high ground to the east of Minas Generalis, possibly around Junkyard area. You can go to the compound that's in the field to the east of La Bandita and Los Leones. It's a fantastic compound to have locked down early on. You have the high ground to the north of Los Leones as well. And if you want to go a bit more edge, the southwestern hills of Los Leones does cover a good amount of bases for kind of not only gatekeeping teams coming in late, but also phase 2, phase 3 onwards to get some relevant information.
I mean, perhaps I'm a bit more basic, but I even noticed the fact that you've got a church, a graveyard, and still the graveyard hills, right? Available to you,
true,
even likely the San Martin Plateau, if you really wanted to play towards that edge side. There's currently NIGMA Galaxy are currently positioned on this location. So many spaces available to these teams, which I think as a result, we're going to see these teams all kind of play very safe, minus our initial engagement that we had by R8 and NASR for the first phase to phase 2 section. And it's more about this phase 3 and the rotations that are so crucial in having those good positions to set up and escape and mobilize from.
Interesting that GEEKAY haven't moved out of Mikado just yet. Okay, as Major Pride catches out one of the Twisted Minds players. But yeah, it's interesting to me because as much as I noted that they could like take advantage of players of teams rotating from the south of Picado Hill, normally that entails you disengaging away from Picado relatively early and setting up to the hills to the west of it, and then you're able to get relevant information because they're a little bit late to the party. It's not bad, but is again a little bit of a surprise that they haven't pulled it out as early as I expected.
Phase 2 closing in here. Am I a bad person, Imperium, if I just wish it would go like all the way down to the islands? Because I've not seen it for like a solid 6 months, and I feel like I'm missing out ever since PMGC's like Ireland finish on Miramar.
We don't talk about it.
Oh, sorry.
We don't talk about it, right?
Sorry.
You've already cursed it by mentioning it. You already cursed it, Highland. Why you gotta do these things, man?
I'm sorry.
Like, man.
At least it went away from Los Leones, right? So at least like me casting isn't a Los Leones zone again. So phew.
Look, I'll let you away with it. Don't let it happen again.
I'll try my best. Like I like zip my mouth shut every rotation shift. Is these teams coming up to, I think, more of a northern side. You mentioned a lot of these hills around this northeastern area.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot about the play on these hills, so Imperium, and finding those high grounds, because information, I think, in such a volatile typography in terms of the terrain is going to be so crucial for these squads, where you have these high hills and you have these low lows. In the rotations, I feel the team's going to be quite hesitant to make between these kind of differences.
I do appreciate that you observed around that kind of northern shift away from Los Leones, because you're right. Honestly, it was a very good phase 2 shift for a lot of these teams and for the majority of the teams. Yeah, okay, Kurt 12 have a bit more of a distance to travel, but because teams rotate a little bit more up north, they have a bit of space. Triple Esports looking for the players of Oztech Warriors, and Smoker, he's on his own and he gets caught off guard.
Triple finding the one elimination as they hunt for that final flush through. I feel like also Triple have been one of these teams in a steady incline, as we can talk all day about, right? Some of these teams and the high highs of the leaderboard. But when you talk about Triple, actually, they didn't start off in that first Super Weekend very great. But the second week, they turned it up, and they turned it up massively now into this third Super Week itself. Feel like a team that we kind of saw in that one Super Weekend, right? Where they're beginning to get to that kind of average of the high points per game.
Well, Triple are going to have to pick up their paces in this day too, because they're currently lying on a total of 5 points in the first 4 games of League Week 3 played out. NIGMA Galaxy Freak with the Mini 14 8X. A hell of a combination, if I do say so myself, and looking to make NASR pay for it. He has to pull off a Smoke and Highland. That leaves NASR pinched. They're already down to 2 players. They were already split up on that northwestern edge of the circle, and if it's not NIGMA Galaxy, it's potential SKYROCKETs that are going to take them out.
Here come the Vultures swooping in, but NASR find one themselves straight back onto a roof. Very caught out from the rest of their team, and I would argue a bit too aggressive, but of course they do lose Humam, so potentially down to a solo. And SKYROCKET, you said, maybe not going to go for NASR here, as they are overlooking NIGMA too.
They could, if they're able to have tracked the elimination feed and understanding that the shots they heard correlated to a player in NIGMA Galaxy going down, they could get involved in a bit more of an aggressive way, but that's presuming a lot, and that's kind of making sure that all that's around you is aligned. And SKYROCKETs, you also got to ask, are they in that position to engage? Are they really set up to control, or are they set up to fight? I would argue they're not really set up to fight, but I certainly see the correlation of how they're going to be able to take that engagement to NIGMA Galaxy should they have to. The next phase, though, is about to pop up. Hoping that it does center up. It is a little bit of a central shift, but more aggressively down the southwest, and that puts Labadita in firm focus of this phase 3 Highland Wolf.
And this phase 3 just seems really difficult in terms of navigating between the hills, kind of Minas Generales and their graveyard you have, but then in between that and La Bendita Imperium, there's these kind of flats and this kind of road that comes down the middle of that zone, which is going to cut off a lot of the decisions of these teams. I feel like squads going to have to make that decision early on right now in this phase 3 to decide where they want to go. Is fortunately SKYROCKET, the only place that player is going is into the next match.
Lol. Toxic. It is what it is, and SKYROCKET's now down to 3 players. By the way, quick shout out to Monica. Happy birthday to her.
Right.
It's her birthday today.
Yes, happy birthday.
I don't know if you knew that. Every day is Monica's birthday, but you still wish Monica happy birthday every single day that you can. It's not looking like a birthday gift for Monica in the hands of Brad as they lose a player in the rotation. The vehicle tire does get blown. Now he's going to lose another player. CONQUEROR Rocket down and dirty.
And Rad's unfortunately gonna lose out on even more. And fortunately for Rad, they were very low in the standings. I believe last position so far from the end of yesterday. So this kind of start is just not the way that they want to begin with. But for CONQUEROR, it's excellent. And this is exactly what they want to have, because they need these elimination points too.
Even Monica forgot it was her birthday today. Absolutely terrible, man.
No.
It just means they're getting old, Monica. Sorry, but feels bad, man. Feels bad, man, indeed.
Poor Monica, like, she's not even here to defend herself. Like, rip it into her, like, man, don't remind me when I'm not on broadcast Imperium after a week of being away. Like,
POWR Esports are in a great position to gatekeep the players from 90th minute on that northeastern edge of the circle. I would be okay if 90th minute kind of scaled back a bit. They still have that full squad up, multiple vehicles around, and phase 3 is manageable to stick in the blue. And as they go for the push, or should I say POWR go for the push in the form of Kante, Chado stands up, and that was definitely a poor solo push from POWR Esports.
Look, 90th pushing forwards. They at least will find the one elimination. There comes the second through. Is Kante will be no more. In 90th minute, though, do have to be careful because they are on the edge of the zone. And these shots will have been heard by the likes of CONQUEROR further towards the edge of that zone where they're coming in from. And still being on the edge means there's a lot more to do when it comes to rotating, and they kind of want to finish off here POWR Imperium, because getting down towards that south and that hillside where POWR really do stand is going to be much better for 90th than crossing in on that roadside.
I would say they should have gone for the engagement, whereas kind of they're doing the same thing that POWR Esports did. Is a little bit of a mistake, but as is goes for the push on his own. Jabal's going to catch him off guard. Couldn't quite get the shots off again. Not that clean for 90th minute, but extremely unclean from POWR.
Yeah, POWR, I think, really struggling here in this week. It just feels like they aren't playing the exact same team that we saw in the second Super Weekend. In El Hahe, very, very low indeed. Is on the edge of zone, so can survive in the meanwhile. First aid's back up and continuing to still, I think, slow down the 90th assault, which in turn is going to help actually POWR and hinder 90th from not only POWR's point of view, but for the rest of these teams coming into the zone.
True, but here's the thing. The circle shifted up the northeast, so at the end of the day, POWR are going to be under pressure, because it's not just going to be 90th minute in looking in their direction. Right. It's going to be like RA, it's going to be possibly CONQUEROR, it's going to be this team, that team, even SKYROCKET. Now, again, it hasn't been positive for 90th minute. They got the first pick onto POWR Esports in the form of Kante. How can you disengage away from that position and not think that the rest of POWR Esports are around you? You got to cover your ground before you look to disengage away. They didn't, and although they were able to technically return fire, they have lost players. They have lost the ability to control this late game.
And it just feels like a fight that they should have clearly won in their hands. It's just gone entirely wrong. POWR somehow still getting back a 3-for-3 trade in a world where it shouldn't have happened. But in a world up towards this northern side here of the zone shift, and you really see now SKYROCKET covering now that position, CONQUEROR more centralized, and 90th are going to be kept in this kind of corner. On the other hand, though, down towards the south side, a lot of these teams all making those wider rotations, and they seem to have all clustered themselves up here, Imperium.
It's quite flat around the southern half of the circle, by the way, so I don't expect the majority of the team to be coming through this direction. Of course, the teams that are currently inside compounds can make a bit of a difference in this part of the game. It is Kurt 12, 4K, and Major Pride. Major Pride swinging around on towards the tail side of the hill, and they get the opening pick on the Kurt 12.
4K still defending their position. Of course, they have the zone, they have the compound to themselves. Kurt going to lose Mad now. It's Major Pride, a horrible time coming in behind them, and it's a two-way fight for Kurt to take, but they are much more focused here. As you can see, all positioned onto the side of Pride, but it's still 4K making those knocks. As SM will be the next.
Yeah, and gonna look to get revived up, but I think that's a bit of a mistake, especially if you know there's another team in another direction. Again, don't know how much information Major Pride have been able to gather in this short engagement period. Frozen, cooking up a nade, so the player of Kurt 12 and Mohammed catches him off guard. That's what I'm saying. Going for the revive is incredibly dangerous.
And 4K laying it onto Milky Way as well, forcing him further from the fight where they want that position to help sideline Major Pride into the building. They do find Mohammed steps way too far out of comfort and checks into 3 players of Major Pride. Now it's Kurt 12's time to revive.
And the next circle is about to pop up. Luckily for all of these 3 teams, the circle does shift down to southwest, but arguably all of the other remaining 12 to 11 teams are going to be looking in their direction. Major Pride have been able to push into the long building and are looking to take control.
Major Pride stepping in, by Mad for 1. Can they find a second? Yes, they will. They'll find all 3. And Kurt 12 wiped. Is Major Pride up to 5 eliminations, but they're not done yet. Keep in mind, 4K have heard every single inch of this fight, and I'm curious to actually 4K not trying to also third party. But on the other hand, if you say tracking those kill fees and the eliminations, it was Major Pride heavy.
They should have gotten involved in a third party. They had Milky Way somewhat pinched. The building that they have locked down is only going to provide them so much cover. Now's the time to take the risk. Now's the time to kind of do what you can to take an element of control in their play. It wasn't the prettiest of engagements, but Major Pride got the job done in the end. GEEKAY, you can see a replay of what Triple Esports did to them on the rotation on towards the western side of the circle and up and towards the north CONQUEROR. They do have to move out of the compound, and NIGMA Galaxy are looking to be holding them back.
All of these Northern teams, so falling away through the wayside is GEEKAY will be the next of a long line.
Yeah.
It's all of them struggling to get in onto the zone. They're also triple finding their mark, but 4K also under pressure, as you said, right? Major not now being under pressure from one fight into the next, have the time to set up, and 4K finding themselves already a player down to 2 as Major setting up for the next building. Milky Way going in very heavily straight onto the flank alongside GN.
Beautiful use of mollies over the top window, right, just to suppress them, holding them back down even more. The building does provide a good bit of movability, but again, it's also out in the open, so by suppressing 4K players down into more corners, you're able to control the entry point in the engagement so much more. So very good proactivity from the side of Major Pride.
And they've got every angle covered. Imperium 2, 4K, they got on a knock on top. They're trying to circle through, but Darwi got caught as those entrances were see-through. Anaconda now under fire from all 4 players. On a knock, sees the opportunity, but there are way too many bodies. A Major Pride now inside, and on a knock, you best have the prayers in hand because it is a quick exit.
So good for Major Pride, a clinic across the board as we move into the remaining 18s, make that 17s as we lose another NIGMA Galaxy, have gone down to the hands of CONQUEROR. If there was ever an engagement they were going to win, if there's never an engagement that they needed to win, it was against NIGMA Galaxy in this first game of the day. However, there's still a challenge as the circle shifts down southwest once again.
Going to have to here look CONQUEROR inside RTB. No, blow it up completely as J9 also going to be the next. Rosa on the high ground, overlooking everything. The smoke, yes, blocks away for some vision of Volt on the side with J9, but for RTG, they've got nowhere else to go, Imperium. The backside is completely open. There's no vehicles remaining apart from a smoking green car. That's going to now be expired, and J9 will be the only real survivor left as it has to step further back.
CONQUEROR are running out of time, but they have a bit of high ground. They have a little bit of time to move because they're on the slower side of the circle. Never mind an all-important vehicle to use in their arsenal. The final player of our end is there. Triple Esports hanging on to the southwestern side, but they're being peppered by Major Pride.
Major still keeping themselves very much in this game. The zone having gone to them too, Imperium. They couldn't have asked for a better result from their hard work. Is RA trying to find those shots through as a solo player inside the shack. Rosa dipping so well, but not enough because OOREDOO have their number. They'll take the elimination, and so RTG will fall swiftly after. Major Pride up to now 11 eliminations, Imperium.
OOREDOO Thunder hold onto the northern side of the circle. Major Pride hold onto the southern side. You have Triple Esports trying to carve their way in. All right, finally go down, and we have 3 teams remaining.
6 for the side of Triple, but down to 2 players, and they have no way into this zone, Imperium. I mean, they go over that hill. Yeah, sure, they're getting into the zone, but there's 4 very angry Major Pride members overlooking this side. Major stepping up, find the elimination for 1. They find the second. There they will go. Triple Esports going to be taken out. They will fall third, and now it's all down to OOREDOO's time. They get inside the zone. Sure, but Major still in control. Now up to their 13. They have still the compound in play, and OOREDOO playing for that next phase and hoping that it goes up to the north.
Some regard 13 is an unlucky number. Well, Major Pride are going to try and turn that in their favor and make it a lucky number 13, and not only make it a chicken dinner, but 16 eliminations if they can get rid of the final 3 players of OOREDOO Thunder becomes a lot easier for them as the circle shifts in their direction.
OOREDOO, they do not have the zone. Major Prides, they have every single penny in their wallet, ready to take this chicken dinner home, ready to get the oven on. They're prepping it to 180, and it's a 30 minutes for 3 OOREDOO course surprise. Is all of them still trying to find their position around the edge of the zone. I like OOREDOO's attempt, but also look at the side of Major Pride. They're spreading out, and I also like that by them, trying to maximize the positions here that OOREDOO have to make it as least as possible.
3-1 split with Yen outside the circle. The perfect split for Major Pride.
Major finding the angle. Is a desperate Hail Mary attempt, but OOREDOO, they've already lost the 2. That should be it. As Osama is on the back end, and they're trying their best, assuming that maybe there could be more than just Major Pride here. Osama stepping back to keep themselves up. But the blue zone comes closer ever forward in OOREDOO. It's a slow finish for sure, but it's an inevitable finish.
Nothing really OOREDOO Thunder could do. I appreciate even the attempt that they played out with the 2-1 split, but as Osama, 2 of his teammates, he was on his own in the back end, and although 1 knock came through, it just wasn't enough. A Major Pride, what a way for them to close out game 1.
Look, Major, they've had such an aggressive playstyle all tournament long, Imperium, and to see it in this first game really showcases, I think, the style that Major Pride want to play this game and carry through from those first eliminations to get earlier on in the game to then making sure they have even more eliminations, keeping that momentum rolling into the later stages of that point. But I also love on the other part that Major Pride, even though they are very elimination heavy, the way they approach compounds and hold these compounds too is so good as well.
As you look at the points secured from this first game, indeed it was a 15 elimination point game for them. They didn't get that final player as he died, as he went down to the blue zone, but indeed 30 points secured. Yeah, like Major Pride, I'm going to be a little bit harsh. That game was one of the easier ones when you look at every single individual engagement that they took was an isolated engagement. Like 4K should have gotten involved. They didn't. The engagement onto Cur 12 wasn't the prettiest. It really wasn't. There was a couple of mistakes made. However, from a strategical standpoint, from a positional standpoint, yes, it was one of Major Pride's strongest games. And you can see the fluidity flowing through. You can see that kind of synergy starting to build a bit more, especially when you compare it to week number 1. So I'm very happy to see that performance from Major Pride, despite it being not as clean and calculated as it could have been.
Yeah, I think in terms of that other side, as we check out that second page of the leaderboard, Imperium, some of these teams weren't as fluid as Major, and I think that certainly showed. I mean, 90th minute were on that first page were a good example, but also POWR, a very scrappy fight who had to return that through, and then to those rotations on the south side on the next zone shift of phase 4, phase 5, a lot of those squads like Kurd, like GEEKAY, like NASR, all got caught in that sector.
It's tough. 4K, again, they missed an opportunity to pick up a potential squad up, and at minimal, arguably 2 extra eliminations in the form of Major Pride, because they didn't, because they were too, frankly, being honest, scared to get involved. They paid the ultimate price. I made a note of it, that the building that they were in isn't genuinely not the easiest to defend. It's not the easiest to breach, but it's not the easiest to defend. And yeah, looking at the highlights, you can see this is the moment that Major Pride got involved with Cur 12, and 4K are right there. How do they not get involved with that third party?
Yeah, I mean, Major, they still made it work, though, despite this, and GEEKAY as well. You can see as our best opponents lay through kind of how some of these other teams did fall to the wayside in the other parts of the zone. Now, GEEKAY struggling to find an entrance in, but you have to obviously note that these were the star of the shows on Major Pride, but then also it was a lot of this northern side conflict too that did lay out a path for only a few of the remaining ones to try contest Major.
The game one result was absolutely fantastic for Triple Esports, to give them credit, because they were coming into this game in 19th. They had Rad, Kurt12, and 4K in between them, right? Holding down the bottom four coming into this game. They got 16 points. Kurt12 got 0, Rad got 0, and 4K got 1. So their result of this game one was like massively aggregated by the three teams around them, picking up 0 to 1 points.
Yeah, and I mean, this is where those points really do get sponged up, right, as well, compared to Major taking so much, and then also those fights happening on the northern side, taking up a lot more of those points. So I think still to get those eliminations on board, to get that third position from the point, as you say, where they were, in terms of Major Pride all looking down upon them, very congratulatory to them. Now I want to see that consistency come through, and if you haven't, get in game and be consistent at getting those rewards, of course, as well yourselves, because it's a Grizzly Bear card collection, and there's only 2 more days to join the card collection draw and win outfits. There is a chance to get all the pieces of an item in one go. Imperium, I feel like I'm going to miss this one. It looks so beautiful, but I mean, on the other hand, what can you do? It's going to go soon.
Are you interested in another bear fact?
Oh, hit me. I'm ready. I've missed them.
Have you missed them?
I know,
Have you
right?
missed
It's
them?
been a whole week. No, well, Monica gave me one. Monica gave me like one bear fact, but I missed him.
Is she?
Yeah,
Nice
yeah.
one, Monica. Well done. I'm proud of you. Proud of you, Monica. The first modern bears evolved between 5.3 and 4.5 million
Ooh.
years ago.
Look, I mean, that's
Million.
some evolution, Imperium for bears. Is, to be fair, also we got to check out our banquet as well, with more in-game rewards, of course, guys. Get ingredients to make more dishes, and of course, let's share and spread our happiness in game and for all of these players too.
I love what Andre said about the fact Monica said about bears. Can't repeat on broadcast, but it's absolutely hilarious. Yeah, indeed. Get involved with the banquet and the bears. So what I love about PUBG Mobile, and yeah, it can sometimes feel a little bit overwhelming, but what I do appreciate and love is that they have so many different events on that kind of can cater to somebody. So there's always something that you can kind of get behind or get involved with, whether it's in game, whether it's kind of obviously out of game, whether it's a certain skin, whether it's a certain event. There's always something for them to do. So yeah, get in game, get involved, and get the Grizzly Bear suit.
Yeah, but what better way to do it without a discounted rewards too? You can, of course, draw for a discount in the Greek purchase for free every day. Imperium, I mean, there is a bunch on, as you said, for everybody right now. If there wasn't a time to do so before to get in on those rewards, be sure to do so now. Is we are prepping, of course, our lobby too. If you're wondering for Erangel next, Imperium, keep in mind that group E will be sitting in, Group E will be sitting out, and then also Group D will be joining us. No, I'm so confused. I'm so confused. I'm getting debated by myself.
Come on, Jake.
Group D are sitting out. I'm sorry. Like, so it'll be NASR, RTG, Triple, and Twisted Minds. Bang, got it.
Are you sure that's right? Are you sure that's right?
I'm like 99.9% sure. That's what everyone says. So like, just to have that leeway, right?
You want me to repeat it?
No, it's okay. We got it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you're right. It is Group D sitting this one out, and we will introduce Group B for the first time in this day too. So Vista Gaming, what can they do? What can they show us? Team Falcons, look, I'm not worried about them. Nice to see them kind of get back on the right note. The only one, esports, it's weird. The only one I see at moments, the only one kind of show us that they can be the only one in the lobby, right? But also they can go the complete opposite, and it can sound cliche to say this, but really with them, they can show us the opposite, where they're the only one to make a mistake in the lobby, and that might sound harsh, but it's a reality, and I think it's hurting them at times. They need to find that balance, and there's been more moments, but again, I am a little bit worried about the only one coming into today's games.
Yeah, I
Just a
mean
little bit.
today, right? But also the future of the Super Weekend as well, because when you check back to kind of their results in that second Super Weekend, they only got 70 in the first,
Yeah.
then 67 points in the second, so even less. Yeah, close, sure, but 67 to 70, they're not points that you really want as an average result.
Exactly. And okay, they're on 32 points coming into today's game, so arguably a little bit similar to 4K. You can kind of go, yeah, that's okay. But again, the cutoff point between week 1 and week 2 was actually higher on week 2. So will we see that trend for the cutoff point of week 3 where they don't make it into the third Super Weekend, and it becomes even more of a threat for the position in the finals? They know the pressure they're under more than anybody else. They just got to get the job done in their final 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, look, Vista stepping in as well, going to be, I think, very contested and towards kind of Georgia pole side, also down towards Primorsk, because a lot of these teams now playing, particularly those, of course, joining us from Group E, going to be in towards mainly that more western side of Erangel. I think there is going to be another playing path where teams are going to have to do a bit of driving to get towards that eastern side, but also on the other hand, it's not too bad, Imperium.
No, it's not too bad. Once we don't see all 4 players in one vehicle, cough per 12, then I'll be happy. I know it was one of the things that was kind of shared in the group chat between ourselves and
Kurt 12.
Kurt 12. Poor Kurt 12. Yeah, hate to see it. SKYROCKET is going to North George, all to themselves. Major Pride heading towards South George / kind of split towards hospital area. Phase 1 pops up, and it is complementary to the playing path. Once again, a pretty standard phase 1 circle. It's super familiar to so many of these teams.
And as well, this zone, even complementing the playing path too. So not much work to be done in terms of rotations early on. And I think this also gives more time for more of that setup Imperium. Now, Vista, I'm actually really interested in their change. Now, I argued that they were one of these more volatile teams that can go towards the south side. I was thinking that they could go towards north, but I also like the adaptation coming away from Major, coming away from SKYROCKET, who also take Georgia Pole away, and saying, well, that kind of more southern side is free because Triple aren't playing in this game, so suddenly that kind of Erangel 2.0 hitters are more free.
Definitely. Kurt 12 just gave a
smacking
shotgun to the face. He gave a smack to Rad, so well done. And that is an unfortunate risk involved when you look to drop around that kind of eastern side of the map when the playing path is quite heavily weighed towards the western side. To be fair, it could have gone against Kurt 12. All came down to being able to navigate your parachute in the right way, pick up a vehicle first, maybe do a little bit of looting before you move, and then of course taking advantage of your opponents. And Kurt 12, credit for them in that regard, they were able to do that and pick up 2 early eliminations on the Rad.
I mean, okay, so Monica has posted on chat actually a good point here, Imperium. Yeah, she's still watching on her birthday too. The dedication on Monica, by the way. But she said that Los Leones is not going to be my kind of natural spot, okay? What we've seen, and fair enough, in while you've been away, is Gatka. Gatka has been like the new constant for me when we come to those final zones, Imperium. So I hope you're ready, by the way, for like a Gatka finish. It's kind of already gone down that way, so we're kind of heading into it, you know, naturally.
Well, see, I like to think that, sorry, Monica, but I just have a little bit more power inside to go against Highland Wolf.
Like,
so I'm hoping that
store the energy for a week.
Yeah, exactly. The energy I store throughout the week will be able to counter Highland Wolf on these circle shifts, and we won't see too heavy of a Gatka finish. I'd love to see it end around kind of Quarry and Ferry Pier Hill. I'm always a big fan of it, and you can see the replay. What happened initially between Kurt 12 and Rad?
Look, I mean, it was just an unfortunate series. Rad trying to go for a little bit of a position higher ground and go for the vehicle. It didn't work out. Kurt 12 just run him over for good effort and get the 2 eliminations. And I think for Kurt, as much as it was given an away towards him, they need those eliminations because they have to remember that there are a plethora of teams here in Imperium, and we'll say it in time and time again, that need these points, that need this qualification.
Exactly, and that's it. It's when you have so many teams who are in this needing position, that's a hay bale. CONQUEROR, you can't drive over that hay bale. Good effort, but when you have so many teams that need it, it does create an air of desperation. It creates that challenge of who can be the best of the rest to an extent, and just carve their way into this third super weekend. 4K. Bit hairy scary as they navigate around that kind of northern side of the river. I don't get why they're going so close to Severny, right? Where they dropped was interesting enough. The fact that they've rotated so close to Severny, where they should know YALLA go, it's a little bit unneeded. It's a little bit unnecessary, and yeah, I kind of I'm a little bit curious as to what the mindset is. It's a bit of a weird rotation.
Right. I think they're trying to also come on to SKYROCKET idea of, well, R8 aren't playing on Georgia polls, so it's going to be more open, and Zaki's more open similarly. The plane path went through towards Zaki, so it enables us to go that direction. But I am totally in agreement with you that after Zaki, where do you kind of go? Because Georgia Pole is already taken up by 2 teams. You've got Severny, but now even towards the southern end of the bridges, life even covers in terms of information for YALLA. So they have actually effectively locked themselves in kind of this corner, this box, that they're going to have to fight at least one of these teams or go past one of these teams later on to get back in the zone.
Yeah. I think the kind of second element is a little bit more worrisome, is the fact that they might have to go past or around, like, not only YALLA, of course, but SKYROCKET's Major Pride. They simply wasted a lot of time in this early game and put themselves into an unnecessary risk. It is what it is. They'll know the potential consequences more than anybody, is the only one are starting to rotate through this eastern side of the circle on the southeast edge of Potato Hill. And I like this quick rotation. I don't know how much they track the elimination feed in terms of seeing what Cur 12 did to Rad. If they did, I really hope with IGLing ability and just overall as team awareness that they're able to track that and correlate that to 2 teams that like to loot up the eastern side, and they've gotten engaged or tangled up early on, so it technically makes the only one's rotation earlier into this game a lot more manageable. And I'd like to think that this is a product of that it's an adaptation from the only one as to why they're rotating a little bit earlier compared to a few other teams around them.
And I feel like adaptation in terms of getting points, and hear me out, I actually believe that OOREDOO Thunder's always dropping right into this South Island. I mean, SKYROCKET used to do the same. I'm surprised that no team has really decided to camp that western bridge. And I feel like, especially in a zone like this, Imperium, where the only one have kind of this move forward, they can look to do that because the rest of the teams there naturally going to be all fighting around this quarry sector. You could really stop OOREDOO from moving in and getting a position, and you can really hinder the progress of these southern teams in a zone like this.
You're technically not wrong. You're technically not wrong. Yeah. And I will always kind of keep that in the back of my head, but you also need to consider that as a team, you have 15 other teams in lobby with you. If you technically put so much focus on the position of one team, what are the consequences of that? The consequences of that is that you're losing tracking and you're losing focus on 3 to 4 to 5 other teams, potentially, right? So is it worth focusing on that one team at the potential consequence of being punished later on or losing focus of 5 to 6 other teams? Arguably, no, it's not worth it. So I think that's why OOREDOO Thunder are kind of technically getting away more often than not with this military island position. We'll have to wait and see if a team can maybe track that from OOREDOO Thunders. We might see it in the finals where it could count a lot more heavily. But phase 2 does shift over to the west, and this is a little bit away from GEEKAY. Just it's still in the circle, but my point is it's not the majority of the circle. It's not the major central point.
We're avoiding the natural kind of movement of the Hand and Wolf zones, but is
The power,
exactly.
the power is there.
I mean, the power is certainly not there because NIGMA have
It's
just
not there.
NIGMA have just pressed the delete key on the Power Esports member, so they'll be gone out of the game for now. But I mean, to be fair, on another hand, the Quarry side actually was where I was looking at on this zone shift, and I feel like that northern side, Vista, 90th minute actually moving away from it, just have so much information, and information is going to be so valuable in a zone like this. And also, even if you can't control the Quarry side, what Conqueror could do even in terms of controlling that hills towards the east too.
The compound that Power have technically gone past, that's in between, if we do see the map feed in the next couple of seconds, between Enigma Galaxy and CONQUEROR is a great place to hold on to. I don't actually like where 90th minute have gone. Luckily, Power Esports have rocked up onto them into this edge of the compound, so they are a little bit more prepared for an engagement. Yeah, I'm not really a massive fan of 90th minute going here.
Well, they're both going to be locked in combat though, and unfortunately for Power, going to be their second knock now, and Dart the only one, and it's a very quick fight engagement and 2 knocks for 90th minute for now, and they will control their building despite, I think, them having gone away from that powerful position at Quarry. I would have been on the same line as you of kind of versus fighting Vista would have been a lot better of an idea, not only because Vista arguably statistically are a weaker opponent to try fight, but also the fact that that position that Vista have is much more powerful the position than heading up towards later here.
It's more so that where 90th minute are, it's not a bad position, but to me it doesn't give enough information to the northern side. And GEEKAY right now, they have that kind of observation tower hill, and that's a much more competent place to move on to. And you can see they're able to spread out. They probably heard the shots between 90th minute and Powerful and Power Esports, and are looking to maybe get involved. And again, I was hoping that 90th minute would have gone onto the observation tower hill. They didn't. They did pick up some clean engagements onto the Power Esports players, so credit to them for at least kind of adapting to that. It remains to be seen how well they're going to do from this lockdown compound position as teams are starting to rotate into this northern side.
Yeah, I mean, Conqueror K12 here on your screen. Also keep in mind 4K have now made their way through that northern George pull into the south side. So going to rotate towards the edge of Major Pride. I think 4K, of course, were forced to make such a late rotation, naturally, as we said, being stuck behind other teams, but seem to have made it work. Is phase 3 already going to be on its next shift here, Imperium?
Vista have a 2-2 split, which is a little bit interesting, committing quite heavily to the western side. Not really a bad thing, because on this phase 3 up north, it does still give them some good entry point into the circle. You have the swamp area that is kind of dividing and kind of stopping a cleaner rotation into a more central area of the phase 3 shift. I'm curious to see how they do adapt off this circle movement. SKYROCKET's looking pretty good on the northern side outside of Everest. YALLA have a 2-2 split, a bit more of a 2-1-1 split. 4K edging on Major Pride.
Major catching out 4K, of course, on their later rotation, but 4K just driving slowly in, desperate to get that. I mean, not the cleanest way, but Major Pride still gonna fall down anyways, and I just feel like 4K may have surprised Major Pride, sure, but Major Pride had ample opportunity to fight back.
Honestly, like, none of those teams were really in a position to fight, right? The circle had just shifted. They were both rotating. 4K managed to technically come out on top.
I mean,
with the likes of Falcons now coming in behind. Out of the two teams, Major Pride probably came out more victorious. It all depends on how quick 4K are to respond to Falcons, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, I mean, on a knocked, right? So it's going to allow at least a 10-second revive space for Falcons to come in. Also, the smoke road laid and out gives away the position of 4K, and Falcons know exactly where to look. They're already heading towards the same position 4K were just at and laying down the nades. They do miss for now, thankfully for on a knock. But for how much longer? Because Falcons' use of Damar now stepping in forward.
it is a little bit trickier to chuck those nades in a more accurate way over the lip of a hill, so that has benefited 4K in the right way. I expect the Falcons to react to that a little bit quicker, but now they get to drop onto Darwin. They have a little bit of a control, although the blue zone is starting to close in. So I think Falcons missed a cleaner opportunity to engage quicker, and they're kind of forced to move away from this 4K engagement.
Yeah, I feel like certainly 4K should have been completely eliminated there if Falcons had pushed harder. But I agree with the hesitancy, right? Because they were still in the blue zone.
Really?
They may have not been tracking the elimination feed as much.
That's true.
So on that rotation, they may have thought, well, it could have been more players. They didn't realize whether or not could have still been knocked, maybe assumed they were back. So not having that information you said over the hill did cause Falcons to kind of retreat there as fourth phase already going to now be in another shift for these teams, and a lot of spread coming through these teams. But I still like your point going back to GEEKAY, very centralized for this next shift on that observatory tower.
Exactly. It's why I kind of highlight that. And okay, I'm sorry, Monica. I'm sorry, Andre. I'm sorry, viewers. My power just wasn't enough in this game. And we do see a massive eastern shift towards GEEKAY and the chopsticks area, so GEEKAY are going to be able to react quite quickly, and again, that's the benefit of the observation tower hill.
No, I mean, brilliant shots. You can see through the replay, Rad falling down, NIGMA finding a long-range shot. Gotta imagine they may have not been able to finish that off, considering that Rad should have been there to help. So, but here's all of these teams still rotating through to, of course, we could amply name it also the Wolf GEEKAY fields. Is that like is that a name just for PMPL Arabia special?
How about just how about the Highland Hills?
The Highland Hills. That's alliteration. Cool. I mean, I need to rename. We need to rename it on the map now, Imperium. Next update confirmed.
Yeah, Highland Hills.
Like,
yeah, definitely. Great play by NIGMA Galaxy. Holding onto the roof is quite important, Kurt12. I really appreciate the split that they're doing, because it's a little bit of an entry point split, but it isn't committing all their eggs to one basket. Split, you know, they're kind of threading the needle in the right way. Yeah, okay, they made their position known to NIGMA Galaxy. They do still have a team behind them.
Only one also slowly engaging onto Kurt12. Sends a nade over her own hillside as Mad stepping forward. Looks for the spray down onto one, but he misses both. And Man, unfortunately, will sacrifice their life as a result. Kurt already on the disengagement, not really able to find anything from that, but they do lose 2 players.
I gave Kurt12 credit for that kind of not putting all their eggs in one basket against NIGMA Galaxy, but the caveat to that is you always got to make sure that you have your backs covered before you look to do anything like that. They didn't, and they got bit in the ass because of it. Down to 2 players, forced to go into the Highland Hills outside GEEKAY as 2 solos, and they're gonna be picked off if they're if they're lucky. They can survive until the late game.
Major Pride, though, making a extremely risky rotation in a smoking vehicle. They're going to lose one. Anaconda drives them over. And Frozen going to also fall. Milky Way is going to be the last. I mean, 4K, we're just all over them. Major Pride, I mean, come on. It's just not acceptable that late to make those sort of rotations.
They definitely didn't need to do something like that. We're not really going to talk about it. I suppose that's the best way of going about it.
Sure.
And what we are going to talk about is the fact that GEEKAY have reacted to these circle shifts very well. They've moved into fantastic positions. YALLA have adapted quite accordingly. And out of the remaining 15 teams, arguably, they're the 2 teams with the best positions.
OOREDOO as well, pinned down here by Rad. As, of course, all of these teams trying to find a position here, but they're running out of those positions because GEEKAY is naturally so darn open. VISTA Gaming also finding a quick 2-piece onto Falcons. So these are the points they needed, and Falcons falling down to 3. Powerful could surely got to be the last one. They're sending it full on over, and there comes the elimination points. 5 in the pockets for the rest of VISTA, but they're not out of the woods yet, or out of fields more so, with SKYROCKET already on them.
But it was such a quick engagement from VISTA Gaming. The likes of SKYROCKET had no real opportunity to get involved in the third party. Circle on phase 5 shifts over to the eastern side, so the edge of Chop 6 is the focus. Alright, in a wonderful position. CONQUEROR do have the kind of more eastern edge, and that could actually fare off a little bit better for them, because even though they need to move out of that eastern Chop 6 area, again, it's not really going to be a focus out of the two positions, so they could kind of pick players off, look to get a little bit of a tickle engagement, and then see what they can do, but they're down to 2 players. It's not going to be easy.
And I think naturally as well, being inside of a bunker will avoid the attention of a lot of these other teams who are going to be spying on each other in these open flats, because you can see the fields, yeah, sure, the wheat protects you somewhat, but the vehicle rotations are what's required, and that does not protect them from that ice line of these other teams. In 90th minute, already crashing into the compound of NIGMA. NIGMA have been sat here for a while, but now it is time to heat things up with the mollies. Now NIGMA stepping forward with the nades of their own, stepping in onto the building of 90th.
I love this from NIGMA Galaxy. They're actually technically taking 2 engagements at once as they picked off the knock onto one of the only one players. Hemodi pushing himself forward, holding onto the edge of the building. They need to push this knock as quickly as they can, but roof is knocked, and Nate comes through. No, not quite. Modi's able to dip around, and he's able to get into cover.
90th though, not able to avoid that one, isn't it? Freaks, explosives are too much. Now it is on. Stepping in from the back, throws out the smoke for now. They're trying to blind NIGMA as much as possible, slow down the fight, because here comes the only one as well. Him behind NIGMA. And they've got a secondary fight to have to take straight away, but they've not even cleaned up the first. Hemodi's still a 90th, but the only one have completely encapsulated the other 3.
This is where the experience of the 3rd best team in the world currently will come into play. Dancing with the devil, one to the left, one to the right. NIGMA Galaxy know all about this pressure, and they're playing it through wonderfully. Jabal cannot deal with it. NIGMA push in. That's the only one eliminated.
And they ignored one team entirely, focused on one, and that's the sort of quick decisions that you need to make, Imperium, as expected of the 3rd best team in the world. VISTA though, big nade will miss, so goes over the heads of VISTA. One back onto Triple R, should fall short too. Is this Grenade City, maybe, for the outskirts too?
Circle shifts up to northeast. Fantastic for R8. They will have to deal with SKYROCKETs a little bit more heavily, but VISTA can finish them off, and that's exactly what they've done.
I mean, VISTA, that was the angle that we were looking for. Even more eliminations now onto their hands as they desperately try to clamber their way into the top 16. CONQUEROR Iraq outside the zone has stepped out of the noodle, though, of the chopsticks, and now they're heading into what will be an open finish. R8 still very much in control of this zone, though. Keep in mind the onus on them.
The big threat for R8 to me is actually NIGMA Galaxy. Because I look at NIGMA Galaxy's entry point in this circle, and technically one of their safest entry points is through the chopsticks, right? Because it's low down, it's a little bit more linear, and they can kind of take the isolated fight, but I understand why they'll want to avoid it. How are they going to move?
I mean, expecting obviously a team to be down in those chopsticks already, NIGMA will be, and I assume that's why they're avoiding it now. R8 though firing out the pressure onto NIGMA, and you can see the smokes already utilized by NIGMA to block out that pressure, but they're still going to lose Hemodi regardless. VISTA also down 1 to a solo as Sunrise trying their best in the position as YALLA stepping forward. They will lose life, but the position then revealed of the rest of Sunrise as R8 continued to pressure themselves.
Great awareness by R8. Great amount of smokes being thrown out by NIGMA. They're not giving any real information. And you might look at that and go, that's too many smokes. So no, because they're moving, smoking, moving, smoking, moving, smoking. It's great coordination by NIGMA Galaxy.
And you can see the eye line of R8. They have absolutely no clue of that side of the fight. So now NIGMA have entirely waves of smoke that they can utilize. But the problem is, YALLA are still there on the other hand, and they have the angle in. And so R8 R8 begin to see those smokes disappear, then they get an eye on it. But Yalla, a big bounce off of the hay bale will find one, but it's only trades. It's Hamodi is the only player remaining.
Beautiful play across the board. This is clinical and great effort from all teams. Nothing NIGMA Galaxy could do, but they made every single attempt to make it into the edge of the circle. But R8 had a great setup. Yalla were a little bit aggressive and proactive on their movements away from GEEKAY. Now we are down to 4 teams.
CONQUEROR spying out one, assassinating the solo player, and suddenly R8, they forgot about their behind, but oh boy, did they feel it in their behind, as now CONQUEROR rack. Looking for the nade on top. Throws it out. That should fall away for short. Won't hit anyone. Another one goes in the middle. Groza also clambering to the more flanking side.
VISTA do pick themselves up at top 4. Just want to make note of that as we are down to our final 3 teams.
All right. They're down, obviously, Prestige. That nade did land the second one onto one. Revan's still not done yet. He's still got even more Imperium. He's chucking him like he's got them in his shopping trolley. He's took them all into his cart and he's throwing him at R8.
CONQUEROR waking up finally. Coming into today's games, not looking good. They didn't qualify for the second Super Weekend. In Game 1, they picked up 7 points. This Game 2, they're into the top 3.
And Yalla as well. Do not forget Imperium. They helped to finish off NIGMA. They're still here in the outskirts. They aren't inside the zone. CONQUEROR are the ones inside that zone. Phase 7 shifts into them, and suddenly it's the trios, the onus on their teams to move forward into the CONQUEROR duo.
It's not going to be easy for it, but they need to focus on CONQUEROR's direction. They suppress Yalla, now they push in.
And they get one. That's what CONQUEROR really did not want to look at, is Skaytan. Looking first, will go over the hill. Groza readies himself, can see the members over the top, can hear their footsteps closing in. Yalla on the other end, there's nowhere for Groza to go, but they're playing right on the edge of that lip to be able to avoid the shots, and doing so excellently. It's now Yalla step further in that bubble beginning to close. Is R8 maybe now overlooking? Is CONQUEROR firing through? Will fall down in third, and it's up to the trio versus trio.
Such a smile on my face. We're down to 3v3 indeed, Highland Wolf. R8 being incredibly proactive, being incredibly defensive, but now they've got to get more proactive as Yalla have got the first knock.
One big knock, though, indeed, for Yalla. They're going to put down the second one, look to finish off. Krabi will get them and reduce them to the 2. Skaytan goes down as well. And Yalla looking to clean up this game. Prestige is the only one up. Can't do much as the bullets in hand, but the clip's not big enough to take them all down. And Yalla secure the second chicken dinner of the game.
It was so good from Yalla because, R8 respectfully and you know, expectedly kind of not forgot about them, but ignored them and said, okay, we're gonna push in this direction, which is the direction of the circle, right?
Yeah.
But Yalla, they still were proactive because they picked up the final elimination on the CONQUEROR, and I think that kind of rattled R8 because after that, R8 weren't really as quick to turn around, weren't really as quick to kind of re-engage on the final team. They should have been. Yeah. I'm kind of curious why they didn't, but again, Yalla were quicker in that regard, and they deserved that chicken dinner because of that. Still, genuinely, one of the best games I've casted. So many teams stood out in a good way. I loved NIGMA Galaxies playing that game. I loved Yalla's in towards the tail end of that game. I love R8 and how protective they were to the south of them, holding on to 2-2 split, and even CONQUEROR getting the points they required up until the very end.
Look, that's what the Highland Tales are about, Imperium, as Yalla taking that top spot, of course, of the game. 23 points over to them. But as you mentioned, R8 NIGMA, phenomenal double-digit eliminations through by them, still keeps them in play. Yeah. But even more so, VISTA, CONQUEROR, they're in that 4th, 5th position. VISTA, a big game for them.
A very big game. They need to keep it up, though. Highland Wolf, they need to continue on this train, on that right kind of track of moving into these results. This was, and I'm not trying to kind of be too over the top, at least from my experience, their best game in PMPL Arabia so far.
I mean, Vista
Their best
really, the way that they approached the fights, I think, was the most beautiful thing, because they were quick and they were decisive on those engagements, and that's what we want to see more of. As we check out that second page as well of these teams who we do need to see a little bit more of. I mean, we're gonna sketch over at Major Pride. We don't talk about that, as we said. OOREDOO Thunders, though, unfortunately, also getting those 0 points. And a few of these other teams, like of course Kurd, needing these spots, needing these points too. Not the best game by them.
So it's a little bit tough because you got kind of multiple layers to what is the overall standings of this league. You've obviously got the isolated league week, but then you've got the kind of super weekend points, and that does come into the fold. So as you get through the day, it will become clearer, but it can be a little bit tricky at this moment.
Look, we're going to head though through to our best of moments of that fantastic second game. We're going to give you a short break before we're back onto Miramar.
Yeah, boy. I believe I can fly.
Enemy spotted.
No! No!
This needs to stop now. Come here.
I'm dying.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
هو بوت طالب بربطه ما عرف يسيبك لا
Welcome back here to the PMPL Arabia full split for the 2022 season. Myself, Wolf, and Imperium alongside you, as well as our beautiful phone down below with the upgrade performance and upgraded fun. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Oppo Reno 7 Pro 5G, the designated smartphones for PUBG Mobile, Middle East, and Africa Esports 2022. And as always, Imperium, you need a drink to go with that phone when you're playing PUBG. What better than Monster Energy, our official energy drinks partner for the tournament?
Indeed, indeed, indeed. We are 2 games in of this League Week 3, day number 2, and the top 16 teams will be making into the 3rd Super Weekend. And again, it's very important. And like I said, it's a little bit tricky because there's multiple layers. Some teams who are looking a little bit scary down towards the bottom of this league week don't need to worry so much because again they've played in the first 2 super weekends. They've gotten a decent amount of points, but the majority of the teams, you know, we're looking at kind of in the overall super weekend standings, we're looking at kind of 20th to 13th. Out of those teams, one have played 30 games, one has played 0 games, and the rest have only played 15. So really kind of those are the teams that we're looking for, and if they can make it into the 3rd super weekend.
Yeah, let's check out those overall standings. Keep in mind for some of these teams today, there's only 2 more games to play for them to get these points on board as well. And I'm really looking towards VISTA, who now get themselves into that top 8 position, Imperium, alongside their SKYROCKET, Falcons, all of these 3 teams needing to get into that super weekend. I would argue they've got there by now.
I'm going to be a little bit more specific right here in what I referenced to the Super Weekend. SKYROCKETs, they're in the 3rd Super Weekend, and they're coming into this week, into today's games, on a total of 104 points for 15 games played. So they should be kind of relatively not only okay, of course, locked and loaded for the Super Weekend, but arguably if they keep up in the same performance level and the same average points per game, they should be good for the finals. VISTA Gaming, this is a different beast because they pretty much secured their spot in the 1st Super Weekend, but it will be their very first Super Weekend.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely feel their need to get into that Super Weekend and their oomph that they put there for the top 8 as we check out our 2nd page. So that means there's another 5 roughly teams here, Imperium, that all need that spot still.
CONQUEROR, 38 points, 6 games played. They're on the plus side, but again, I'm a little bit hesitant because of the fact that the cutoff point was raised between week 1 and week 2, right? So there's still no guarantee. Out of the 2 remaining games, if they get 1 more good game, they should be good. The only one Esports, they have 3 games. They're on 35 points. Arguably, they're looking a lot healthier. Whereas 90th minute, they're 6 games played. They're only on 33 points. That's where I start to get very concerned.
And I'm very worried because right 90th minute, we're knocked down into that relegation space for the Super Weekend points, Imperium. So they don't make it here. There's not even a chance that they can still qualify. They're already done and dusted out the tournament. So they have to pick it up getting into these next few games as we check out our final page, though, before we head to Miramar, where POWR 4K CONQUEROR, they are in some serious trouble, though. Only 20 points by POWR there in 17th.
It's fine. POWR Esports currently find themselves in 10th in the overall standings on 195 points. That should be okay.
Yeah.
For the finals. It should be. It's not ideal. It's not going to help their preparation for the finals. It's not going to help their confidence, but it should be okay. Arguably the same for 4K.
Yeah.
The biggest threat is COR12, RAD. COR12 are down in 19th in the overall standings, and RAD, actually, they're in 11th, 193 points. Actually, no, maybe they're okay.
Yeah, I mean, COR12, really only big issue for them. And as we jump into our 3rd game here, Imperium, keep in mind, CORD, they're playing in Group A too. So they only have 2 more games.
Yes.
This match on Miramar has to be knock it out the park amazing.
Well, let's see if they can knock it out of the park and getting an amazing result as we're into game number 3. That means we introduce a new group and we remove a group. So it's group A, B, D, and E are into the mix for this third game. We say goodbye to 4K, CONQUEROR, OOREDOO Thunder, and POWR Esports for this third game in Miramar. The playing path is a little bit different to what we saw in the first Miramar game of the day, a little bit more directed on the east. Does that mean we'll see a Western Phase 1? Possibly, but I'm hoping for a bit of a central start to this game.
Yeah, essential start is what we like to see from these zones. I also still just going to highlight it, honestly, Imperium, the one place, actually I think it's probably the only place I've not had a zone go to has been towards that Le Coperia and kind of towards Oasis side.
Really?
I've never seen a zone go there. And I actually genuinely only realized this now, and I actually really want a zone to go there at some point.
Okay. Well, let's see if the Alan Wolf curse can succeed in this
it's gone slightly
Miramar game. So it's fine. It's a really good Phase 1. Yeah, okay, it tickles a bit of the West, right? Especially in comparison to the playing path at the end of the day, and wide open door for most of these teams to transfer, rotate generally where they want to, comparative to their playing path, like their drop stuff, should I say, for example, Cur 12, they go more towards that kind of western side in around Valdemar. That's going to be great for them entering Phase 1 because they can hang onto the high ground around La Drolera, maybe south of or to the west of Tumasera if they want to, or even if they want to go a bit more centralized, they can opt for a bit of a riskier, a low ground position outside of Monte Nuevo. But again, it's very good rotation potential for so many of these teams.
Yeah, I think as well for the likes of NIGMA getting quickly to Airport, so definitely going to help them. And these teams on the northern side, again, Rad, getting to these outskirts position quickly means that they're not going to have to worry about being on those outskirts as much when it comes to rotating later, because they're going to have their looting phase finished. They're going to be as ready as possible to getting closer to wherever this zone does shift. Now, I think particularly, though, we're always kind of looking in these kind of zones towards those mainline roads. So that road coming through Picado and downward, Twisted Minds currently moving past to Monte Nuevo. I'm really curious to how teams are going to navigate this section towards the center of the map later, because it will be in that Phase 2 likely, and I have always felt these teams change in the way that they play Miramar each game around this kind of sector.
Indeed. It's tricky having Picado Hill in the center. One thing that I'm observing as well instantly is that it is a little bit healthier being on the northern side of this Phase 1 circle, because you can kind of rotate from hill to hill throughout the circle shifts, right? You can go from, let's say, El Pozo Hill to the hill outside San Martin, for example. You can go from Craterfield Hill a little bit down south. You can go from Water Treatment Hill a little bit down towards the southwest. There's a lot of kind of like go from here to here to here, whereas on the southern half, it's a little bit more weighted in around you go for the edge, or then you go low down, and then you have to go back up on the edge of the Picado Hill, and that can be very, very tricky to navigate around. So I do feel for the likes of Major Pride, Cur 12, Twisted Minds to an extent, who are more down on the south side of the circle.
And in the south, though, you still got to argue that there's a lot of ways that these teams can rotate. However, Imperium, I mean, you could always rotate like towards that Twisted Mind side. Major Pride making that kind of wider flank in towards that more western area. It's very much, as we say, where this next phase will go. For now, I think everyone kind of securing their position for now. However, a lot more teams closer down to this kind of Los Leones edge.
Yeah.
There's a clustering of teams, and I'm very intrigued later onto that Phase 2 mark how they're all going to kind of navigate around each other.
NASR, VISTA Gaming, YALLA, Triple Esports, and the only one, like you said, all clustered around that east of Los Leones area. You can see VISTA getting very close to NASR Esports, Batika getting somewhat spot out. So great proactivity from VISTA Gaming early on, but you do have to be aware that probably not the only member of NASR Gaming that's going to be around that vicinity, so kind of take the elimination and get out of Dodge.
But do you ever just feel like Vista are just such a more aggressive team today and through these last 2 days than they have been throughout the entirety of the tournament, right?
Definitely. It's not even that they're more aggressive today. It's more that there's a bit more focus on kind of one fight at a time. There's a bit more coordination. There's a little bit more direction around how they're moving. There was a lot of games over the past 2 weeks that I was like, they're directionless. They don't really know where they want to go. They're just going in for the engagement for the sake of it, kind of within reason, with all due respect, kind of very tier 2, tier 3 level plays that came out from Vista. But today and arguably yesterday as well, but definitely today, completely different story.
And that's what I like to see, because I want to see all of the 20 teams here be able to show something, regardless if we make it into the finals. I always feel disappointed when we get towards the end of these tournaments, and you just feel like a team hasn't showed the best that they can be. And to see Vista climb up, regardless, I think, of whatever they get as a result in the Super Weekends, you cannot detract that from today, Imperium. They have showed that they can be one of these great teams too.
Yeah, and again, I'm all for a team not only proving me wrong, but proving the rest of the lobby wrong. And even though their battle and their journey in the third Super Weekend is gonna be mammoth, like it's gonna be absolutely mammoth coming into the third Super Weekend. The fact that they've given themselves that chance should definitely be credited. But either way, we're getting through this game. You have RTG on the east of Picado Hill. You have GEEKAY more around the power grid area. So GEEKAY made a quite clean, swift rotation throughout the first 5-6 minutes of this game from Picado City into the power grid hill. So understanding that, you know, they have an opportunity to gain a really core central location and kind of a great, fantastic gatekeeping area of the map early on. So they take full advantage of it and they go there. So good play by GEEKAY early on in this game.
A lot of these teams as well, kind of focusing around, as you said, that central position of Picado Hill. Now, RTG, we saw that they had a position there already. Power grid taken up by GEEKAY, as you also mentioned. But R8 and also their Falcons slowly heading in towards that location too, moving away from that kind of edge of the cliff on towards half the end of the patron and more towards this hillside. I like that all of these teams heading for the information plane, heading forward, trying to get that more information into phase 2. I am just curious as well, though, because a lot of these teams creating now at conflict between each other and coming back out, depending on where this zone goes, could be more difficult for these teams after they've locked themselves into this space.
That's technically true, but again, if you look at R8, and hopefully we see the minimap coming into the tail end of phase 1 between R8 and RTG and GEEKAY, they've all gone to the edges of the hill, right? They're not in the middle, so the ability to not only get information but adapt to it is a little bit more competent. However, R8 maybe rotating a little bit too late into the circle and caught off guard by Falcons.
And it's just an excellent punish as well by Falcons to be able to be so spread, to get that information. Oh, no, don't do it. Do it, chuck the pan. Oh, they miss. Oh, it was so beautiful. I wanted to see it, Imperium. I mean, one time in the future. They're not even going to take it. Oh, no.
One shot.
It's even worse.
We're followed by second and third. Phase 2 popped up, by the way, and it did go down the southeast direction. So still Edge of Los Leones in play. You have Lambadita and around the graveyard area. Perfect position by Vista Gaming on this phase 2 shift. The graveyard, Minas Gerais Hills are such a beautiful area to lock down inside this phase 2.
All right, still very locked down into wards, as we said, at center of the zone. Still Picado very much there in this second phase. And I feel like a lot of these more teams are going to be rotating in towards that location, but I also feel like Hatfield of the Patron, I like it rad with the absence now of R8 there taking up that cliffside. And also you see teams coming down from water treatment, even those likes of SKYROCKET in our screens on our replay right now versus 90th, taking up these more northern positions too and making that work for themselves as 90th. That is not the time to crash your buggy, my friends.
And even then, like 90th minute heading towards San Martin isn't really the place to go either. So it just directionless from 90th minute, and they don't really seem to know what they want to do. I'm certainly feeling the pressure of this lobby. Twisted Minds now playing in on towards this edge of Power Grid, and I'm very curious as to why GEEKAY dipped away from that edge of the hillside to the west of Power Grid on this phase 2 shift. Understandably, technically less teams will be playing from that western direction of phase 2. However, it's not to be understated how important it is to be able to manipulate teams coming around that western side of that Power Grid hill, of that kind of Picado hill. And by GEEKAY moving away from it and opting to go more towards the central part of the Power Grid buildings, they stop themselves from pushing back Twisted Minds. And Twisted Minds have put themselves into a fantastic position to pepper and to pressure GEEKAY, and that's going to make it so much harder for GEEKAY to move away on the phase 3 shift.
And it's something actually that Falcons have done, which teams do underestimate, I think, around that kind of tier 2 mark, and that's what separates is the presence of mind to take as much area in a fight as possible, because if you can expand your area of control in Imperium, as you can see here, Falcons have such a large part of that around San Martin and that San Martin plateau specifically, you are drawing these teams such as R8 closer into these more uncomfortable positions.
Now on the edge of Summer, that's a wonderful headshot with the M24 from Kra. My God, had him on an absolute swivel. Now R8 aren't in a position to push this. Talk about pushing right back and sending a message.
What better way than to do it? But phase 3 is coming in, Imperium, and it is coming in soon. The only two teams, really, to come into this final zone is still SKYROCKET and also Major Pride finishing their mark. But as phase 3 does shift down in towards Graveyard,
wow,
that's a big shift.
2 shifts in a row that have gone down the southeast, a little bit unexpected. I really wasn't thinking it would go down the southeast once again. VISTA Gaming need to really abandon the Minas Generalis Hill. At most, keep one player there outside the circle, and the rest of the team needs to massively commit to that Graveyard Hill, because they're going to have teams kind of coming in from that northern side, and it's very easy for you to be able to push teams back, not only manipulate traffic, but pick up a few eliminations and stop anybody getting too close to that area. So VISTA Gaming, that's kind of what they're doing, and it's as quick as to be expected.
Yeah, they're making it work. They're going to reposition here as GEEKAY. Find also on rotation a member of Twisted Minds, and it's just caught out as GEEKAY do make that punished army. It's also checking out maybe was behind, so now we'll reroute to a different position. And it all just kind of comes off of the fact that Twisted, like teams such as Cur12, haven't been inside the zone until about now in this mark is going to be inevitably difficult, and they get caught out without that information. Shoto going to also be knocked away, as you can see, the finalized members of 90th minute falling to SKYROCKET as well in the northern side.
Yeah, good play from SKYROCKET. They're being concise on these engagements in all the right ways. Interesting by GEEKAY, by the way. They're able to kind of do such good stuff off the back of what is kind of questionable rotations, and yeah, they're adapting to their situation in overall a solid way. Major Pride now playing in on towards the southwestern edge of the circle, taking an engagement against the side of the only one.
But the only one. Luffy in a bit of the midst of 4 players of Major Pride. I'm not sure Luffy really wants to be in that location with that lower HP bar, but Cur12 certainly want to fight as they will continue their pressure, so will not over the top. And Major Pride being angled here around, but Luffy still will be found, and Major Pride at least secure 1 for now.
Yeah, technically for now, the only one do have a bit of a positional advantage if the circle on the next shift does go up north, and of course Cur12 kind of somewhat pinching Major Pride in that way. Comfort of the buildings will help. Great spray by Petrox to try and slow down, and a beautiful M24 headshot to Yen once again. Nice to see these bolt actions come into play.
Getting to see the work of the N24 here as Curt12 showing they've got the skill too. They're slowly wrapping around. I'm not sure if they're going to. So they're actually going to leave them here and wrap around them for a better position later, Imperium.
That's great play by Curt12. Very often, you know, if you do something with a knock, whether it's engagement, whether it's a reposition, that's so powerful, like so powerful for your late game play. I don't know if the best place for Curt12 to be. Luckily, the circle does shift down south, so they are still inside the circle. But again, I appreciate the fact that they took that knock and they did something with it.
All right, as well, looking for a position finally over RTG. Now, RTG have been stuck on this hill since phase 1, Imperium. They haven't moved. Now it's phase 4. Teams are beginning to come out of the shadows, and RTG, J9 just was not ready, but was ready for that one. Comes the extra shots from Unknown. It's either will find themselves taken out.
The Picado Hill RTG committed to it, and yeah, it's become somewhat difficult, but they've gotten the better of R8 for the most part as Curt12 now going to push in on the only one. Hazam pushing in his own right. The trade comes through, and now they have a little bit of control. But Hazam, he's the last player up, and the only one pick him off.
No, the excellent shots to the front door grabs through Curt12. And the unfortunate thing was that, yes, they ignored Major Pride. Imperium, they meant to a position where the only one just ruined them down on that lower end. And that's the difficult part about it, is it's that kind of northern side of the zone, Imperium, that has the high grounds. And it's much easier to punish these teams in the south where they are in more of that kind of crater point.
NIGMA Galaxy is quite slow on their rotations, and they haven't really been, you could arguably say a little bit of bad luck because they've gone in the same direction as a multitude of other teams. But again, it's been considerably slow rotation, so other teams have got ahead of them, and they've picked them off, and now they're down to just a solo.
Triple eyeing up RTG. They are coming down the mountain, almost there. But they've got a few members at the foot of that mountain. Top is Volt. Damage is clever. Looks for the excellent shots. Will find it through. Very, very quick punish. And Triple cannot do anything to fire back through. Rod as well. Still behind Triple. And unfortunately for Push, outside slightly of this zone, but in a very precarious position where Triple, they need to eliminate one side to move. And Unknown will be the start of that.
Both of these teams are really in a pickle and a pinch, and I don't see any of the teams really kind of surviving into the late game because, again, they have to make it into the edge of the circle, and the slower they are to engage on each other, the easier it is for like GEEKAY to wrap around and get a better position inside the edge of the circle.
Twisted as well in their own engagement on kind of that southern side versus Major. Major now moved onto that hill, and you can see GEEKAY slowly trying to make it up with Twisted, but it's such a powerful position on this northern hill, so southern hill point, but the height of it is just so detrimental. RTG inside of the building trying their best, but as we said, both of these teams really in a dire point. Both already trying to move through.
Yeah, Volt gets away, but again, he's walking into the loving arms of GEEKAY, yeah. So GEEKAY should be able to get the better of them.
There
Triple Esports might be able to survive, and credit where it is, one is sent across the road. Rad can only do so much from those buildings, and the right moment for GEEKAY for Triple Esports to push across has benefited them.
But we are still facing that zone. At least that zone did shift towards the northern side for them, so it gives them a bit less room to have to move away and get into a better spot. However, they are still pinned by a lot of these teams, and I'm very concerned of them. But that initial knock onto Guy, very swift and will even find elimination, but the punish back, that's what GEEKAY needed.
Yeah, and got a little bit too greedy, did YWZ3, to be fair. I appreciate the attempt. Ali was able to make it across the road out of the blue, but he's limited on his utility, or his med, should I say, and the two remaining players are Rad are inside the shack, even though they're outside the circle already to gatekeep the final player of Triple Esports. Now SKYROCKET is on that northern side along with Falcon, VISTA, and NASR.
Triple down to the one player. finding out one of Rad. They will find a shot. They get the knock. Looks for the execution, and they get it. Rad, Munir now also down to the 1v1, and whoever gets away with this will have the access point into that more western point. Crucial, but Ali sending through the nade onto his face. One back onto Munir, dodges out the shots, and Ali with the footwork for the meantime, but is it enough? Is Falcons all the while faking her own fight, but Rad finds Ali in the end.
Oh man, but Ali, can you teach me how to dance? Because those moves were absolutely class. You could say they were like Jagger as they played in a Falcon Esports, one of 9 teams that are left alive. Powerful, trying to get revived up. But again, SKYROCKET, NASR, and to an extent VISTA Gaming in their own right are around the remaining players of Falcons.
Big Molly through into the smoke will hurt Hope's position, and Hope disappears into the night of the Miramar map as Mitch White continue on the party bus through, and we're taking the party into now this next zone as it has been very open. A lot of the fighting Imperium is all been happening on the outside. Very few members apart from NASR actually inside.
Oh, SKYROCKET. Difficult for contending. Falcons pushing once again their way in. Yusuf is the final player, and they make mince meat of SKYROCKET. Absolutely beautiful from Yusuf.
And Falcons getting the one, looking for the final one. Our major, so they have gotten their position inside of the zone. Yen is there as well. Looks for the final one, but it's a bit too far. Forda now is the only one also setting themselves up inside of the shed to get themselves in their position towards the south of the zone, but it's already on its next shift, and where will it go?
Oh, shit's up towards the northwest. Great for NASR Esports as they not only have the control of the northwest ahead of the likes of Falcon Arab, but they have control of the south of Miracle in that 2-1 split.
And YALLA can't be stopped. It's a Lucius Thunder fire. And unfortunately, we'll have to step back. YALLA pitting themselves into a corner, though. All 4 players, sure. But they are the furthest away from the zone. And it is such a journey to get in onto a zone where NASR have that control. And you've got the likes of the only one major on that hill.
Like Monica at the gym, YALLA are looking to make the gains into the edge of the circle, controlling that northeastern side. But again, because that circle is shrunk so much, they can be peppered down from multiple angles. So they got to be careful and Major Pride push their way in, but Miracle gets a knock on the Frozen.
NASR keeping themselves in this game. They won't be stymied in their position in this zone. Milky Way tries to pop down the smoke for themselves, steps back up, the molly straight on into the face. Yen's over the top looking over Miracle, but Milky is in a precarious spot indeed. Major Pride. I mean, looking for it, Rad. Unfortunately, will lose a solo finally. Aloosh still looking over Imperium.
NASR still surviving. They're striving. Their compound was the focus. And he gets knocked down. And Major Pride Milky Way makes a push.
Oompa. Also for YALLA. They got themselves in the zone. We're all 4 players, Imperium, and it's excellent footwork for YALLA to get themselves this late into that position. I mean, all, I think, off of also the fact that the only one and Major Pride were fighting against each other. Milky Way also in the compound. Yen's going to fall in the back. I mean, Major is up to survival for now. The only one, though, in a worse position.
Yeah, they definitely benefited from Major Pride pushing NASR in that compound. That's the way the cookie crumbles. And again, great footwork. And they're now going to use that footwork to get the leg push, to get the gun push onto the only one.
And Major Pride burning away inside the smoke. There's nothing left, but he gets himself still up. NASR are going to have to go further in. They go in together. One in the top, one in the bottom. Milky Way gets one down low. Still is alive, and he's got no HP to do it. Looks for the second. Aloosh is going to fall in the back. Still Milky Way is jumping. Humam is going to try to find, but it's a ring around the rosies, and they've lost it once more. Milky Way steps out. They can't get the drop shot down. Humam saves it.
So close, yet so far. Great play by Milky Way, and in the end, while all of that goes down, YALLA get the better of the only one, and we have 2 teams left.
YALLA have weaved their way into this top 2. NASR get themselves also there, but it is the fight of the 2 veteran organizations at the PMPL Arabia to see who gets crowned the champion of this game.
YALLA should have this chicken dinner. It's 2v4 in their favor. They've double trouble, boil them, brubble. Let's see if they can bubble up a chicken dinner.
Going into the compound in Humam. Ali, they have split apart, going for the 1-to-1, knowing that regardless if they get knocked, it is too late to make the revive. But Ali has already been found. Unfortunately, now YALLA have spotted this split. They solo out to 1. Ali will be the first to fall. As the zone encapsulates Humam as well. It's an unfortunate end to NASR, but a valiant end, Imperium, to take away at least to the 2nd place. YALLA secure the win, and it is a back-to-back win for YALLA so far today.
Beautiful play by YALLA. It's that kind of like play style where, let's be fair, they didn't have to do much for a lot of the early parts of the game, and definitely benefiting from a couple of positive early circle shifts down towards that southeast direction. When push came to shove and they had to defend and they had to be proactive, they did make those plays. They did make those pushes, right? Even in that final fight when it was 4 against 2.
Yeah.
They didn't need to push the 2 remaining players in NASR, right? But they understood that you don't take it for granted. You look to make sure that even though you have the circle shift, you push. You take full advantage of what you have, and you make sure that you suffer no casualties. So again, cohesive play, strong finish, and back-to-back chicken dinners. YALLA are on track.
Like, YALLA are looking strong, Imperium for sure, but the only one as well getting those points. Yeah, we could argue NASR major pride getting those gains, but they're both realistically through Imperium from this league stage, and it's about the only one who were further down here in the standings getting that 4th position. They're odd as well, getting those 11 points too, making sure they also have that chance, keep in mind.
Indeed, they do. It's gonna make the final couple of games just so interesting, right? We've been here before. This is the 3rd league week. Familiar places for us, not so familiar for a couple of these teams as they're still fighting for that super weekend spot. Once again, great finish by YALLA. Good effort by NASR, right? I don't think they maybe fully expected a team to push them, but because they had that 2-1 split, it was always going to be difficult.
Let me check out the 2nd page, Imperium. And there's a few teams that do concern me. Kurt 12, another 0-pointer. They needed a big result this game. Not going to be the case. 90th minute too. Won't be playing this next game as well. So they only have also 1 game to play left and another 0 points for them.
Unfortunately, I don't think Kurt 12 are going to get the job done to make it into the 3rd super weekend, and that saddens me. They still have 1 more game. Prove me wrong, guys.
Look, of course, in game though, what can't be proved wrong is how delicious this looks. Get ingredients to make more dishes. Let's share and spread our happiness for, of course, that grand banquet. In Imperium, I think, to be fair, to be said, that the happiness is beginning to fade through these teams. Gotta hope that they can keep it up. But not only, of course, can you get the foods, it is also on a discounted price on the group purchase. Draw for a discount for free every single day. You can get up to 70% off. Imperium, that is a sale indeed, as we sail away into these best opera moments from Miramar and to a short break to Erangel after.
But it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all. But this is how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is when you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. I need you to get up. Get up.
trending with the cool kids. I wear it if the shoe fits, yeah. Sign a brand exclusive. I wear it once and lose it for the next best thing. One quick slip and then I'm out of frame. No one really seems to care though. Got an ego, can't explain, no.
Two more games to decide who gets through to our final Super Weekend here, Imperium. Of course, myself, Highland Wolf, alongside you. But down below is, as always, the Opera Renault 7 with upgraded performance and upgraded fun. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Opera Renault 7 Pro 5G, the designated smartphones for PUBG Mobile, Middle East and Africa Esports 2022. Also, vote in-game. Be sure to check it out because 2 more days to go in the Grizzly Bear card collection. Join the card collection draw and win outfits. There's a chance to get all the pieces of an item in one go, Imperium.
Bears have 2 coats of hair making up their fur. That's a quick, fun bear fact because we are getting ready to get into the final game. Andre, as far as I know, our producer, we do have time to show the overall standings?
Yes, we do. And YALLA, they're in top position. Almost 100 points, Imperium. I mean, I know we're not supposed to really talk about these teams that are already qualified, but holy.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Simple as that. Let's move on to the second page. There's not really much to see. Well done to SKYROCKET. Are we going to... Oh, yeah. You're going to see our face for a second. Come on. Let's move on to the second page, by the way. I like what you're wearing today. Nice shirt.
I know, right? It's so beautiful, but also beautiful is the only one climbing up there to 9th position. VISTA in 10th, securing themselves possibly that result into the Super Weekend triple. Still a few more to go, and also 90th there to get into that safety spot. But it's all of those 4 teams at the bottom, Imperium, that really do matter.
I think from kind of 20th to 13th, right now, they're a little bit scary, even though CONQUEROR are kind of playing in 2 games, so they have a minimal amount of points to go. I still kind of don't want to say they're absolutely secure, but the bottom 4 teams at the moment is POWR, 4K, RAD, and CUR12, and the bottom 2 teams only have 1 game left.
Look, I mean, it's close. It's about cutting it close as you like, and I don't like it at all, Imperium. My heart is racing for a few of these teams who, quite frankly, they don't get into this game, they don't get through to the finals. That's about as fun as it is.
CUR12, this is their final game of League Week 3, and being perfectly honest, they need a minimum of 30 points. They need a minimum of 30 points, and that is a chicken dinner plus 15 eliminations.
Still a very,
I don't see it happening, unfortunately. Again, stranger things have happened. Feel free to prove me wrong, CUR12.
Look, I mean, Kurd, we've seen them have these big games, Imperium. We know it's possible from them. Even on here, Erangel, it's just that we've not seen it for so long. But it feels like that fire is fizzling out, and we're on the last bit of that fire indeed for CUR12 to make it through. It's that zone does centralize for the most part into that mainland, a little bit towards the east and to that south part. And I actually like these adaptations also by the likes of Major Pride, and so because of that playing path being so south.
Team not playing in this game, by the way, is the teams from Group B. So that's 90th minute, GEEKAY, NIGMA, Galaxy, and RAD. So 2 teams who are very heavily in around that cutoff point for the 3rd Super Weekend are not playing in this game, at least. That is RAD and 90th minute. So all the other teams around them, that's Cur12, 4K, Power Esports, Triple, Twisted Minds, and CONQUEROR need to somewhat take advantage of that.
SKYROCKET gonna be the first casualty of this fourth game. They've already lost one. They're down to R8 on that south side. And naturally, a lot of these teams changing their spots. Unfortunately, R8 for SKYROCKET getting themselves even closer than in Georgia Pool down in Ferry Pier. And the only one over in towards that Primorsk side. And I think that this zone really has changed a lot just at the beginning here, Imperium, of how these teams play.
Believe it or not, an early couple of eliminations for R8 Esports against SKYROCKET. Now, both of these teams are super secure into the third Super Weekend, so not really too much to highlight. Look, I don't hold it against SKYROCKETs, but also both R8 don't normally drop around here. So either do Tunics and SKYROCKETs, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of like
they
why
both
are they
get
both
caught,
here?
right? Like, I mean, look, it's probably off of the fact that they both get caught, but again, in the other hand, you could argue they all both see the parachutes, right? Like, they both see they're close, so there could have been some distance formed if you're looking for vehicles to go to that Georgia Pole side. I mean, it's a long trek now, especially considering the easy this early on is already now into a solo.
VISTA Gaming in their own right, looking to challenge CONQUEROR for this kind of Ferry Pier.
I dig it.
Coastal line position. It's interesting. Like, the playing path was kind of very heavily east, so it does kind of send a bit of a tizzy for the teams and that like to drop in towards that western side, should I say. Yeah, RTG taking full advantage of it, shifting up towards Stalbar Kameshki, great for YALLA in Severny. Haven't really talked about the Phase 1 circle, by the way. It is quite centralized. A good chunk of Military Island in play, but I don't see it being a massive threat unless Phase 2 goes heavily down south. It could be still good to lock down a bit of a coastline position, though, for the early parts of this game.
Look, CONQUEROR already very pressing on to R8. Unfortunately, it's not working out that well for Gallagher. Just very far ahead of getting caught out. 1 for 1, no. And making a 2 for 1 is Prestige also caught.
Man. Like, this is just unfortunate kind of domino effect play, because CONQUEROR wouldn't have gone so heavily towards Ferry Pier if VISTA Gaming hadn't challenged them for that position. Because of that, they'd be sent towards R8, and R8, because they engaged on SKYROCKETs, have obviously, yeah, being pushed by CONQUEROR. It's definitely a bit of a crazy couple of moments for these teams.
It's a disaster, really. It's the SKYROCKET treatment that R8 get. You know, you have to take a sip of your own medicine, if you like. You put SKYROCKET down to a solo. R8 now down to a solo by CONQUEROR.
Oh man, CONQUEROR definitely kind of need these points. So picking up 3 eliminations early on will automatically put them on 36. Again, they've got this game and the next game left, so it puts them so much closer to that cutoff point. I love the fact that I'm actually hesitant to give a cutoff point figure. Like, back in the spring split, I was like, yeah, I'm okay with giving a cutoff figure, because actually 9 times out of 10 it was lower than that cutoff figure.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas because he's seen a higher between week 1 and week 2, I am hesitant. I wouldn't be surprised if it does go up to near 50 points for that cutoff point.
Look, there's still 2 more games to go, and that's not great news if that's your prediction for the likes of 90th for Kurd. I mean, Kurd's final game, of course, here 90th still to play 1 more, but for R8, it might just be their last, as it will be the end of their league stage here. They'll go through to the Super Weekend, but not in a great way.
Oh, Cur 12, Cur 12, Cur 12. I don't know if they maybe predicted a team to be around them in the form of Triple Esports. I'm not gonna lie, I forget if Triple Esports normally drop around this area. I would don't. Do they? Okay, because Rad normally drop around Milta Power area, right? And Rad aren't in this lobby, so it does make sense if Triple Esports, you know, have dropped here before and will drop here because of a lack of Rad. Luckily, Core 12 are still okay, but I suppose they've allowed Triple Esports to get ahead of them inside this phase 1, and it could pose a problem in phase 2, phase 3.
Well, I think this it's just been a bit of a tricky playing path. As much as the zone has kind of stayed with it, it has been a lot of the Western teams struggling to find a position in the beginnings of this game. And I think naturally that's going to then translate into slightly later rotations by these teams too, because they have been so heavy fighting. They have used a lot of their equipment already. That needs to now be replenished. Imperium, I'm suspecting that this kind of Western line is going to be affected more so by those Southern teams. And then I'm curious into teams like VISTA, now also camping, as you said, OOREDOO, and we kind of, I mentioned it right earlier on, we kind of predicted it, that actually now VISTA, that aggression, looking for OOREDOO on that south is 4K over that triple.
Well, VISTA have nothing to lose, right? They're already locked into a third Super Weekend, so it's not a bad thing to kind of send that message to push teams around and to kind of, you know, try to attempt to bully because you've got nothing to lose. So I really appreciate that from Vista Gaming. It is the right situation where it's okay to target one team at the potential detrimental risk of losing out against 5 to 6 other teams. It's not going to be the case. Great for POWR Esports, by the way. They've had such an easy rotation into the western side of this phase 1, hanging on to the south Pachinki Hill. They should be aware of the fact that NIGMA Galaxy aren't playing in this game, so it makes that hillside just a little bit more approachable at the knowing opportunity that nobody's going to be there from Pachinki at least. And phase 2 shifts up towards the northwest, so even better as it puts them more centralized in this phase 2.
I'm kind of nervous for OOREDOO, actually, because they're sat in, believe it or not, 13th position with 41 points.
Yeah.
You would say, like, as we said, 40 points would maybe be enough to get into the Super Weekend, but maybe it's not. And here if OOREDOO get taken out very early on, don't get the points, Imperium, then they have one more game to get those.
Damn, I think you bring a positive point into the mix. Triple Esports are getting pushed by 4K. You can see the DBS raining down as Clever is down to about a third health along with one of the 4K players. You do see the backline push, but Anaconda is much further away. Golden and Walnut need to support their teammates, but it's too late.
And Triple, unfortunately, down to a very little bit. 4K, even worse for where Izzy will already have to disengage to fight Anaconda, and the rest will just have to sacrifice one player. I kind of like the idea. The problem was it wasn't coordinated, though.
And I gotta give kind of respect to Triple Esports, because again, they kind of pushed ahead of Core 12 in phase 1. They continue that momentum on phase 2, and this is a great compound to have kind of locked down on the eastern side of this phase 2, because you still get a relevant amount of information towards Potato Hill. You get a great amount of information down towards the south side, so it gives you a lot of variability to react to the next circle either way. So pushing 4K back, getting an elimination is an extra bonus.
And OOREDOO on this South Island versus Metro Pride have caught both of each other. And Nomi makes the one for now, but Osama is still there on the other end. Molly straight on top of Nomi's face, and it will be the end of Nomi indeed. OOREDOO going to come out on top, but at the expense of, you can see, everyone but Osama.
Oh no, might not be the case. He finishes off Osama, tries to dip away. Can he get away? It's frozen. And Milky Way taking shot. That should be the end of Osama. He does dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge behind a tree, but a sliver of health. That's his day's number. Ardu Thunder out of this game. The Molly comes through. That is it.
The karma. Oh, the karma, it hurts. As Major Pride, they had a Molly of their own, did exactly the same, Imperium.
Look, and again, it's that's a little bit of that kind of domino effect, because Vista Gaming Gate kept Ardu Thunder on the western edge of the circle, and to give OOREDOO Thunder a little bit of a pass. Yeah, Major Pride have dropped by Novo before, but it's not something that I would fully consider their secondary drop spot. Maybe I should, and maybe OOREDOO Thunder should for future reference, but it isn't something that I would have coming into this game.
I feel like they've dropped though consistently enough down there, and I
maybe
see
I'm
like
wrong.
specifically, I think it's because of the plane path, though, right? And it's specifically because the plane path was so low that it was really unfeasible for him to go to Georgia Pole. If it was maybe a plane path in amongst kind of that riverside and it was a bit more north, then you see Pride move away. But I certainly agree that Pride, though, they did step a bit further towards the east, and that I definitely did catch it already.
Yeah. It's one of those things because we need to kind of respect the fact that the players don't have the same amount of information as we do. But either way, the next circle popped up and shifted down to southwest. It's forcing a great migration from the eastern side of the circle. NASR, Twisted Minds, Triple Esports, the only one, VISTA Gaming, all vying for a strong position inside this phase 3. Now, the thing is, what will teams up around that northern side do? Cur 12, they're still up as a full squad, but they are outside the circle. 4K are behind them, but 4K are down a player. Major Pride are coming in from behind, so it's not going to be the easiest for Cur 12. They're going to lose a bit of time moving into the circle. They can wait, but again, they will allow a couple of teams to move in ahead of them.
Yeah, 4K here as well. On and up, making that move around. Cur 12 to, on their own migration, as you would argue, in towards this kind of more northern part of the zone, and both catching each other out. Fortunately, Cur 12.
And that's the thing, like, they're technically getting away with it, technically, but I really don't like the timing of Cur 12's rotation. No. I feel like they could have done it a bit earlier. They're getting away with it because 4K are playing weirdly in their own
kind of walking into
like,
it, right? Like,
yeah, it's kind of like the lesser of two evils. It really is.
Like, I mean, Cur 12, they had no right rotating there. Oh no, they didn't catch a Pride as well. Oh, bless. Frozen, caught out in the zone. That's the end of them. I actually think that 4K, it kind of is unfortunate because I want to see more from this team. And I want to see the aggression that we saw in that first day of the Super Weekend. It just feels like since then, they've never really recovered from dropping down out of that top spot. And it would be hard to believe at the end of a Super Weekend day that 4K were in that top position where GEEKAY are now.
Interesting that NASR stuck to the edge of Patinky, same with Falcons. I really don't agree with it unless they're able to get kind of some 9,000 level IQ information. Out of the two teams that I mentioned, NASR in a little bit of a better disengagement position, but by no means super cool.
Big shifts in towards that GEEKAY side as Cur 12, unfortunately, are going to feel that pain in the transition. Every single one of them blowing into the sky by VISTA. Off they go.
And again, it's like, it's why I was insecure around the rotation timing on the previous shift, even though it worked out, because the next circle pops up. And even though reacting to a circle shift is positive, when you're later into the early circles, you got to know that there's 9 times out of 10 going to be teams around you as a circle shift away. And it was just very blind play from Cur 12, Hail Mary, and unfortunately we won't see them in Super Weekend 3 because of it. They are out of the running.
Triple gonna also be inside their own compound. I mean, it sucks for them, but it had 2 chances, and I think more so than VISTA here are doing. VISTA are, by the way, looking absolutely on fire today, Imperium. They're sending now another fight versus the only one, and it feels like they aren't cooling down.
A 3-1 split for VISTA Gaming, which is technically interesting. Dino is much closer to the edge of the circle, but I would argue maybe he should be pushing up to join in on this engagement, unless the members of VISTA can kind of manipulate and push the only one towards Dino's position to get that off angle.
You can see Sunrise there trying to find it, but the blue zone does that extra work. Na's going to find the secondary one, and as soon as one falls, the entire tower begins to crumble. And unfortunately, to that flank, at least they may find Luffy. Not even that. Behind them comes the extra third-party shots. That will secure the knock, but it's a pity knock. Only one, Alush, in the front, the rest of them coming forward.
Yeah, just a little bit too slow of a reaction from Dino. Great play by the only one to kind of pick up on what was a finishing engagement by VISTA Gaming onto the members of Card 12. The final player is up, down on the bottom of the hill. The blue zone's closing in, and he most likely will go down.
Yeah, trying for the shots, but they get at least another. Will slow down the only one. So with the last breath, going to make it a pain for the only one to get outside of his blue, because it's phase 4, and that zone is already almost at its phase 5 mark. Imperium, they're going to be chasing this zone for the rest of the game.
You can see that the knock player gave his meds over to one of his teammates to try and heal off and sustain, but arguably they're now down to 2 players on the northern side. Like I said, I didn't like how Falcons and NASR stuck to kind of the edge of Pachinki, and you could argue that none of these teams have really fared off too well. NASR do have a bit of a spread, but they're down to a number of players, just 3, and YALLA technically had the bullet on them.
I like the hill position though from YALLA. I like the hill position from YALLA, but I'm just not sure why Bumper is so far away from the team. And NASR find that punish in onto the open. I can see that they're trying to pincer NASR into a solo position, but now as Faker goes down as well, NASR making the defense work for themselves. They're going to remove the information that Bumper is giving behind, will not lose that extra player. Finally, Batika will fall. There falls Miracle. That's the YALLA plays that they were looking for. Is Miramar now the only one?
Let's be fair, a little bit of help from Triple Esports. By no means is that a clean engagement for YALLA. They made a couple of mistakes. At most, they should have only lost 1 player in that moment. Questionable Bumper being there. I don't fully disagree with it, but the rest of the team should have been able to provide that relevant support on that lower part of the Pachinki Hill. The next circle centers up in this circle. Fantastic for CONQUEROR, not bad for POWR Esports. And Falcons, they were able to move around, and they have a bit of a northern edge of this circle in their control.
In CONQUEROR have so much control of that southern side of the zone. I mean, Imperium, you can see it here. It is full of wheat fields. Anyone just gonna be rolled over. But no, will at least go down with one in their dying breath, but they will fall to the wayside as Twisted 2-2.
The only one go down. A little bit of pressure on them coming into the final game to an extent. They should be okay. Triple Esports are still alive, and this is very important. Right now, they only have 1 elimination. Still up as a full squad. They might be able to kind of technically third party this as YALLA finally finish off NASR Esports.
And Triple moving in here as well, looking for that extra angle as YALLA have been continuing that fight. They heard those shots, they know it's happening, and now have made a position for themselves. Power on the south end also going to be firing down onto Twisted Minds as they are coming also Anis into the absolute middle of the zone. Very brave, but it is very almost risky for Anis here to be inside the midst, inside the shack, and another nade. I mean, that landed already 1 on top of him. Anis is firing their own, but that power one comes first, I'm afraid, and Anis was a little bit too greedy.
Yeah, nothing you can really do, and great productivity from POWR Esports. Pachinki Hill going to be a haven of action on the northeastern edge. The final player, SKYROCKET, is just kind of waiting, going, okay, look, well, you guys pick each other off and I'll wait and now move in. Great productivity for Triple Esports as YALLA down to a duo, looking to try and finish off Falcons.
Another nade comes down onto Yusuf. Won't find it, goes slightly too early. Molly will also hit, but Live has to be careful. Keep in mind, of course, the zone is coming behind YALLA, so we can't continue this fight for an extended period, as it will in now at least engulf Yusuf. But Yusuf finding the shots, but hell of Damar there. They baited him in to an angle, and Damar gets a 1-for-1. Yusuf still alive, crucially, as another nade we dodged by Damar, taking the shots from CONQUEROR.
The circle centers up. The only player that's actually inside the circle is the final player, SKYROCKET. Now, it should be relatively easy for CONQUEROR to kind of move in to that western edge of the circle. They have the compounds in play. They haven't really had to engage. They must have a lot of utility, even a lot of vehicles they can use as hard cover. There's no guarantee. There's no massive security, especially with Triple Esports and POWR all covering that north and the eastern edge.
But big knock by Yusuf onto YALLA once more, and YALLA having such a difficult time to finish off his birds, and it will be finished off by them. The claws through the face is Triple now as well in some trouble. POWR continuing to apply the pressure, making it so that Triple can't continue on into Falcons.
CONQUEROR need to kind of do what they can now to get a little bit more involved on that potential third party with POWR on the opposite side of the circle. Haji is a little bit on his own. He has a cover of the shack, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for CONQUEROR. Falcons trying to move in. We're down to 5 teams.
Calica for CONQUEROR, already 8 eliminations for this squad. Keep in mind, Imperium, they haven't been too quiet to have the most eliminations in this game. SKYROCKET, we're blowing into smithereens as POWR make it happen. And now Triple, with that extra time given to them, have moved also in onto the zone. And CONQUEROR trying to fight both Falcons, both trying to fight here. Triple, but it's a slow approach by them.
Coming into this game, POWR Esports were on a total of 20 points. Triple were also on a total of 20 points. So this game was very much needed. This result of a top 4 for both teams at minimum was very much needed.
And getting these points crucially in these final games where they require them. CONQUEROR, Triple still to play their next game on top. Imperium 2 is POWR. Unfortunately, they won't be playing for much longer. Every single one of them reduced to the shed and has tried this strategy, and I don't think POWR will be successful either.
3 teams are left. Triple Esports now going to push in. It's a lovely 3-way dance, and honestly, Ireland, any of these 3 teams can win.
As this almost walked into the nade, there comes another. Will now bring us down to half, down to 25%. One more brings him down to 0. My math's correct. But do we have another nade in hand? CONQUEROR here also over the position. Finds one, almost got a second onto Ali. Brilliant punish for the overextension of Triple onto POWR.
Wonderful 2-1-1 split from CONQUEROR, as well as getting involved at the right time to third-party disengagement.
And as is still alive as well, is on the edge, but you can see the fire shots coming through onto Triple, but trying their best to defend here. A position, trying best to recover, as it is blown directly by Gallagher into third, and now Triple only have to eye up the second position. They lose the back line. It's only up to yours, and it's all looking over as CONQUEROR coming over the hill in a juicy final elimination. Rio going to fall though, however, is for one. Don't see this happening, Imperium. I don't see it happening, the 1v4. I mean, you guys are trying. Here comes Rev at the top. There it goes. It is CONQUEROR. Confirm the final elimination, as we said, and CONQUEROR their own chicken dinner. I just feel like CONQUEROR, both Triple, they both win, though, in this game, Imperium. Getting those points, as you say.
CONQUEROR, that was a great game for them. Their timing was perfect. Yeah, okay, they had a compound for a good bit of the circle, but navigating out, I said they needed to get kind of a little bit involved when POWR and Triple Esports were starting to take shots at each other. I don't know how much information they had, but I really believe that they used the audio from the opposite side of the circle and kind of said, okay, look, let's spread out, let's move in. And they certainly took advantage of Falcons and YALLA kind of slowing each other down, right? and it allowed them to move into that northwestern edge of the circle. Like you said, the timing was great from CONQUEROR and great way to close out this fourth game.
And as they check out the standings as well, Imperium for CONQUEROR, they're in first position, a 30 points a game, will surely confirm themselves now into that Super Weekend. Alongside, we've got a match in triple. POWR also getting themselves up too. And it's also good to see by the likes of the only one, another consistent game by them, and I think quietly consistent today, getting a 10-pointer in the belt.
Puts 90th minute under a lot of pressure coming into this final game because it automatically puts POWR and triple ahead of 90th minute in the overall standings. I don't know how many points 4K secured in this game, but they were definitely the kind of the biggest per se losers of this game, because teams above them got very good points in the form of triple and POWR Esports. So it's going to be a race for the 16th spot, or for that Super Weekend spot into the final game.
Look, second half of the standings, so there's 4K as we were looking for, and only 1 point by them, as you said, Cur12, only 1.2 will confirm their elimination, not only out of the Super Weekend, but out of the finals as well.
Yes.
It sucks, but Cur12, they just needed to do more, quite frankly.
They did, and they didn't adapt in the right way, and I really hoped that they would, and they've got a lot to learn, but I also believe that they have the ability to do it, and they also have the level of energy within the team. I really hope that they keep going, and thank you for providing us with a lot of action, a lot of entertainment. Keep on going, guys. Again, this becomes very, very scary because Twisted Minds in their own right, they only got 2 points. 0 in that running, 4 not qualifying.
Look, it all comes down to this last game, Imperium. We're going to leave it off for the best oppo moments from that Erangel match. A short break before our final Miramar. One more game here on the league stage at the PMPL Arabia Full Split, and it decides so much. Imperium, because these teams do need those points. We've, of course, joined none of it by the Oppo Reno down below, though, with upgraded performance and upgraded fun. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Oppo Reno 7 Pro 5G, the designated smartphones for PUBG Mobile, Middle East, and Africa Esports 2022. We also need a drink, Imperium, alongside that phone, and Monster Energy, our official energy drinks partner, is the best way to get energized for this final game indeed.
Oh man, final game, the final opportunity, and like I said, it becomes very challenging for a number of teams. Of course, within the mix, you do have some of the teams who can technically afford to not make it into the third Super Weekend, but arguably, there's more teams who need to make it into the third Super Weekend than there isn't. Very, very interesting. There's going to be kind of a little bit of explaining as we get throughout this game. Unfortunately, we don't have a chance to show the overall standings before we get into the final game. But between 19th and 13th coming into this game, it can be technically any one of these teams or any number of these teams not making it in. We already highlighted that COR12, they're in 20th coming into this game. They've already played their 8 games. They're not making it into the third Super Weekend. So that's why I say 19th to 13th.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier for kind of Triple who are in 13th and Ardoo Thunders who are in 14th. But like I said, it's not the cutoff point, right? So it could go
that's
anyway.
the scary part, right? Is it's so much down to these teams, and I think the hunger as well for so many of these teams. Keep in mind, Group B now also going to be back on board. So 90th minute also back into the game, who need to pull off what COR12 couldn't here and get a good game under their belt.
Look. The teams should know the pressure that they're under more than me, more than you, more than anybody else watching. If you're looking at kind of Ardoo Thunders, if we take where they are in the overall standings of the Super Weekend, they're currently lying in 13th place with a total of 141 points.
Yeah.
If they don't make it in, their spot in the finals massively compromised.
Yeah, of course, not only 90th, but GEEKAY, NIGMA, and also RAD joining in with Group B. And if you are interested in Group A, not playing it is, as we said, COR12, but also Major Pride, R8, and also SKYROCKET here too. So that will be our final changeover of our teams here. And Miramar is, as we highlighted at the start today, Imperium, one of the most tricky to navigate maps. And for 90th, they've got to solve that puzzle, as we said, along with those other teams in the bubble.
What is so difficult for 90th minute is the fact that they have such skilled teams ahead of them. Even though they're in this compromising position, they are very, very skillful. Twisted Minds, POWR Esports, Ardoo Thunders, Triple Esports, they're not teams to be messed with at the best of times. Off the back of this playing path going on the southern side from west to east, we do see a number of teams dropping around that Chumasera area. I think it's is it RAD, the only one? VISTA Gaming? Very, very unique.
Yeah, very curious to see so many teams actually dropping down on the side of Minas Val. I wonder really why on Chumasera here that all of these teams are playing. It could be, as we said, because a few have qualified already, but to see that skirmish, I would love to get in and have a closer look at it. As you can see here, Vista on that lower end, but the only one very split with Falcons in the middle.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was RAD or if it was Falcons. It was Falcons, and they have absolutely not a care in the world because they're already secured for the third Super Weekend. So in my eyes, they want to deny a couple of teams possibly making it into the third Super Weekend, and it could be the only one that they don't want to make it in.
Vista making that line, though, and they're moving that line forward into Falcons. I think that probably Vista, if any team, come out on top here, though. I mean, Falcons are down to only 2. The only one are down to 1. Vista have the full squad. They have the numbers.
Actually, I'm kind of curious in terms of the team dropping, because I kind of mentioned about the only one. No, the only one are secured in this third super weekend. So are VISTA Gaming. So I really kind of don't get the logic behind it. Maybe it's just because they have nothing to lose. Either way, it's providing entertainment.
I mean, entertainment and in terms of elimination is always welcome. Imperium in my books in 90th. They're hunting down these eliminations. They do need all these points. And Golden going to be the first. Falcon's going to be the first away completely. 90th already struggling though. Golden is laying down the law, and it is not the game that you won. Golden is 1v2ing 90th streams.
And this is exactly what you want if you're in 4K, because not only is it elimination points, very important elimination points, but it's against the team that is currently ahead of them in the league week standings. It's still by 13 points, but by taking out the team that's directly ahead of you, it makes their journey a lot more difficult. It's easier said than done. Great play by Golden. Picks up one, picks up two, needs to scale back as the remaining players in 90th min are doing their best to survive.
90th, they've already lost half of their team. This is an absolute disaster, and it cannot be underestimated. Yes, the aggression, sure that 90th needed to pull out, but they weren't committing as a full team. And because they didn't commit as that team, Golden had the advantage, had the read over the lip of that hillside, and it is just all disaster for 90th.
And this is all kind of somewhat very, very close to the center of the circle. So in their own right, 4K do need to be careful. Not only is it low ground, but again, it's in the center. So there's a much higher chance that the longer they leave it to kind of either move away and kind of really focus on their mid game, or if they do want to close out, the slower they are to close it out, the easier the chance they're going to get kind of somewhat third party. They're going to get somewhat caught out.
Falcons as well, we can see where this engagement happened really on Shumusera. Just Falcons picking up the gun first. Unfortunately, only one feels bad man. Then also a 1-for-1 try. No. Not even as Tamar just caught the both of them. Oh dear, for the only one.
What can you do? What can you do? You can do absolutely nothing.
They can fall. They can fall out, and they can get ready for the Super Weekend. That's what I think they can do. And I mean, they're doing it perfectly. It's like a 10 out of 10 style.
With the amount of players that have kind of gone down early on in this game, right, not only with it being one team, but also the amount of players, it does make things a little bit easier for Twisted Minds and POWR Esports, right? Again, the challenge is still there for Rad and 4K. We've seen 4K pick up 2 elimination points, but that only means they're on a total of 22. They still need minimum another 20 to 25 points, right? No, actually, minimum 25 points, I would argue. Never mind 20, and that is going to mean another, like a chicken dinner and another 5 elimination points. So by no means is a journey over for 4K in their fight for the third Super Weekend.
I think the 4K, right, as difficult as it looks, I still believe that they probably do go through, and it was something that we wanted to highlight right earlier in the break, which was that Kerr 12 are already out of the standings. You've got 90th that probably more than not are losing hope on as well. Then VISTA, they can't really surpass too high of the standings because they've only played one Super Weekend. So for teams like 4K, even if they don't make it into the Super Weekend, they don't have to worry as much because the teams below them also aren't playing or don't have a good position.
Well, it's a fact that they were on a total of 215 points across the first 2 Super Weekends. So they're very confidently above what is a speculated cutoff point of roughly around 180 points, right? In the spring split, it was 161, but that was an extreme rarity that we've talked about already. So again, you take 180, they're 215, that's 35 points extra. And what you already mentioned is a fantastic element in play that does definitely trickle down to teams closer to the 16th spot across the second Super Weekend. Again, it might sound a bit complicated, but it certainly will make more sense as you get into the third Super Weekend. Triple Esports are doing everything that they can to make their way into the third Super Weekend. They are currently on 43 points in 13th place. So they only need a couple more points to really seal their deal, book their ticket into the third Super Weekend.
Right, and I've cut-off point kind of to re-emphasize a bit more in the teams that do matter. So we're talking about the likes of RAD or RTG, who kind of roughly down towards that 174 point mark for RTG in that 12th position in the overall Super Weekend standings. As we said, it's a little bit complicated, but it does mean that these teams are more safe when teams below them can't contest them as much. And unfortunately for VISTA and OOREDOO, both of them seem to have found themselves in another skirmish. VISTA have not stopped that engagement. Now, it didn't work before in Erangel, fighting too much, but OOREDOO, it seems a bit scrappy here.
OOREDOO Thunders, it is indeed scrappy, but it's against a team that, although showing a lot of strength, can tumble apart if it goes against them in the form of VISTA Gaming. A good 3-1 split for the time being, a little bit linear, and you can see OOREDOO Thunders are trying to take advantage of that. Smoker's going in on his own, and he is trying to run punchy air to maneuver around and look for Sunrise.
Though Sunrise didn't catch him out now, they will. Evan Smoker is immediately punished for that open fire. Dino also going to fall, but there goes Hassan for gaining another overextension, and VISTA punishing OOREDOO's mistakes.
Great play by VISTA to kind of turn around and be super quick to react to this, and the final player of OOREDOO Thunder goes down, and that means they go out of this game with just 1 point, and it puts them on a total of 43. They are under threat to not qualify for the third Super Weekend, and that puts their position in the finals of PMPL Arabia Full Split under massive threat. They are going to be biting their nails across this final game.
Very, very risky indeed for OOREDOO. Now, they have to hope that now the likes of VISTA and such will fall away, but 7 eliminations for them. It's not a small game indeed by VISTA already, and you can see that they have so much space towards them to work with. That second phase, they kind of centralized, but still towards that northern end of El Pozo, and that main road line, as we said, through Monte Nuevo into Picado itself.
The biggest positive for OOREDOO Thunders is that they're kind of their closest threat to being dropped out of the top 16 is 90th minute. Not only are they already kind of about 10 points behind OOREDOO Thunders in the standings, but they're down to only 2 players. Now, they can still make a potential top 4 with a couple of eliminations. That's going to be a big task, a mammoth task, and unfortunately for 90th minute, an unlikely task.
VISTA, they're after even more, though. They seem to have pincered YALLA now. Is YALLA maybe a harder opponent to crack? Is VISTA looking still, and nevertheless, Sunrise over the top for it. Boomper coming under fire as he looks for the position on Sunrise, gets behind the hay bale for now, and Boomper and Sunrise locked in combat is now F Station way too far out in the open. The Catan will also find Sunrise, and here comes a punish through from YALLA, simply as.
I love the fact that VISTA Gaming are really testing themselves. They really are. You can see that they're pushing the limits in the right way, and that's definitely okay. That's like 900% okay. Not only, again, it's entertaining to us, but it is kind of showing us that they want to push themselves. They want to make sure that they're as prepared not only for the third Super Weekend, but potentially, and I mean super duper low, potentially, a final spot.
Right, in VISTA, you like to see that over-aggression, and I feel like VISTA, now they've shown you over-aggression, right? Istrovka is being hunted, quite frankly, down by the entire YALLA squad, but rein it down now in the Super Weekend. That's what we're looking for, is we need that controlled aggression, because we know that they can be over, we know that they can be under, they need to find that balance.
As they go down, that's the end of their journey in the final game, but we will see them tomorrow in the Super Weekend number 3, day 1. Haven't really talked about the circles, by the way, because frankly, first 2 shifts, they've been incredibly calm. Will phase 3 be any different? Gonna hope not. I hope it's a little bit more of a calm one. It kind of is. Yeah, it's a hard shift down south, but arguably still manageable for the teams that are outside the circle on that northern side.
It's an interesting shift, though, because you can argue that these Northern teams still have a lot of rotational paths to go with. Now, you can either go across a more risky one that is Power Grid, but also I think that NIGMA coming around the backside of Monte Nuevo on a hillside into Monte Nuevo, or El Pozo, should I say, into Monte Nuevo, is actually kind of where you want to go, maybe as a team like NIGMA. Now, you send Hamodi in as that kind of single member to scout out the entirety of that zone, but I do feel that they could definitely be an easier rotation without losing those players.
Thought about how quick you can be based on the information you've gathered. 4K are going to be caught in 4K by GEEKAY in the center of the circle. I like this position from GEEKAY. They committed to the low ground, to a hard cover, and they've been rewarded across the first 3 circle shifts. Triple Esports are down the south of them. Triple Esports are arguably in the second best position of this game. The biggest threat for them, to me, is YALLA on that rotation, a little bit to the east of them, and they need to be very, very careful.
Very close congestion as well. If all of these teams, Imperium, NIGMA, have not gone for the safe route, they've gone straight down into Power Grid, and it will make that fight surely happen versus RTG, but so is everyone else. Rad also jumping down in that direction.
Well, the position that RTG hold on to is more of a mountainous terrain that NIGMA Galaxy aren't really going to want to scale towards, whereas NIGMA Galaxy are confident in locking down the compound that's to the west of Power Grid. So it allows them to control Rad, allows them to control teams that are wrapping around RTG's mountainous terrain, and with the 3-1 split, it's incredibly valuable.
And even Rahofe behind to catch out those final members if they are going to stall back and wrap for a secondary rotation. But Munir will not do such a thing, is already a knocked and far away from the team, quite frankly, will just fall down.
NIGMA do need to be careful. Rad in their own right coming into this game on only 17 points. So if they are going to book their spot in the third super weekend, much like the likes of 4K, they need every single elimination point they can get, as well as a chicken dinner.
I mean, realistically, it's a tough call. NIGMA being in this game, they look like they've got the absolute control over them. They're going to need to pull something spectacular back, and CONQUEROR as well, falling there to POWR. And POWR, as we said, they needed a good result last game. They got that, and they seem to be at least on the road towards this once more.
Yeah.
However, it's a tricky move in. Now, the zone also has shifted down towards that more easterly south, making it even more complex, because that road is going to naturally split off a lot of these teams, and the northern side isn't that great of a terrain to kind of navigate around.
It's not, but they've been kind of consistently moving, and they can kind of find that flow and kind of use that momentum to sway their way in once they get revived up. So I'm really not too worried about POWR Esports. On 35 points coming into this game in 15th place. Twisted Minds are still in this game in their own right, still up as a 3-person team. Sorry, as a full squad on the kind of opposite side of the circle and in towards our southwestern edge.
Big position or shift for NIGMA Galaxy as they dive straight on into a next location, a next building perhaps, but you can see everyone has the eyes on top of them and they are falling down. Hamodi barely keeps themselves alive. On the front, we'll get the first aid med out, but straight under fire from even more is RTG also joining in for that potential dive on down.
Triple Esports are crashing in towards Triple Esports in their own right. I think it was Twisted that you maybe meant to say, but yeah, Twisted are pushing on Triple, and Triple have gotten at least 2 eliminations off the back of that.
Yeah, and Triple on the south side there too. Getting, of course, Twisted Minds now. It is all about that position coming down onto the hillside for Triple, and that more southern point have an excellent spot still inside the zone, can look down upon everyone realistically. You just have to really hope that the zone comes towards you, and it's about where that zone will go.
Yes, that's exactly what Triple Esports need to do. And Twisted Minds, they're under a little bit of pressure. Right now, they are in that 16th spot coming into this game. They picked up 0 points. I mean 0 points. Did you know? This could mean 90th minute make it into the third super weekend. 90th minute? could have secured off the back of surviving as a duo into this third Super Weekend.
I'll believe it when I see it, Imperium.
You're only 2 points
minute.
behind them coming into this game,
fair.
Highland. You're only 2 points behind, and Twisted Mind's got 0 points.
That's true. That is true. But have the stars aligned perfectly enough for them? Because they still need a little bit more. They still need to survive, but I have every faith for them to do so. They have a position for themselves as well. NIGMA still very much trapped in their own position, however, Imperium. They did get every single player back up, thankfully, but they have nowhere to go. They lost all the vehicles.
Man. What a wild end to this league week 3. 90th minute. Right in the center. They don't want to move a muscle. They can't really move a muscle with the likes of NIGMA, Galaxy, GEEKAY, YALLA, and Triple Esports all around them. RTG on that northern side, holding back Rad in all the right ways, and POWR Esports. They have great control moving in from the southeast. You mentioned the threat of risk of them moving in from that northern side. Like I said, they played the momentum, and it worked in their favor.
In this zone, gonna move over once more. POWR, as you say yourselves, they've slowly made that approach in. It's been very well timed by POWR for his last game. It goes in to that northern side and a lot into the open though, Imperium, and that's gonna really hinder those southern teams on that hard shift, such as Triple, who had such a good position on that mountainside. Now it's their turn to make that risky move.
Or 4K with one player up outside the circle, it's pretty much doom and gloom for 4K. Unlikely to make it into the third Super Weekend. They should be good, like I said, in the Super Weekend. Total points secured, of course, but it will be a bit of a disappointment in their preparation for the finals. POWR Esports. My God. I said it before and I'll say it again. Genuinely one of the most exciting teams in PMPL Arabia. Often, it does go against them because it means that they make these mistakes that probably shouldn't happen. They overstep their mark. They can at times play a little bit solo, but if there's ever a game they need to play together cohesively as a team, it is this final game.
And we know they can play such an excellent game of PUBG Mobile. We saw it when we first saw them in the PMPL Arabia Imperium. They blew open the roof when it came to their aggression versus the likes of Major Pride versus GEEKAY. And we felt like POWR could be one of these top teams. And we know that they can be when they're on form. And getting to see that now, POWR kind of go on this curve down, but back up once more, hoping to peak potentially here as they approach the finals in the Super Weekend.
Rad have gone down, by the way, so they will not make it into the third Super Weekend starting tomorrow. RTG still up as a full squad, 3-1 split beautifully off the back of a phase-wise shift up towards the northern side. YALLA as a 3-1 split again. Once again, YALLA as a 3-1 as a full squad, just playing cool, cohesively calm, staying out of trouble so they can control the late game.
And this is what YALLA are about. They've done it already 2 times today. 2 chicken dinners already today, Imperium. They're looking for the third. POWR. However, Dart finding the shots, but can't find the knocks. And already, as is going to be first down to half HP. And down into the smoke they go. Nowhere to move as POWR stuck in between absolutely every team.
90th minute. 0 elimination, but they are into the top 7. That is very, very good, and slowly but surely as we trickle through the remaining teams, they are making it. Will we see a big choke for Twisted Minds coming into the final Super Weekend?
All about where this zone goes, and it goes up north, and 90th going to be very happy with that position, keeps them alive at least for the meantime, as RTG, they also, big onus on them to keep control of this zone, keep control of the northern side. Every one of these teams, such as POWR, going to be moving in as POWR find a 1-for-1 trade, but 2 very quickly dispatched out of the way. Another knock through from the Carmen.
Third party by YALLA. They took shots on them earlier on, and it's come to bite them in the butt per se. Now down to just 2 players. A flurry of smokes are going to go in their direction, but YALLA are now going to attempt to push it in. They need to make their way into the southern edge of the circle, so why not be proactive along the way? But they got to be careful of RTG.
Almost at 8 hits Oh, it almost did, but Bumper goes down, and that's crucial to stop that rain continuing. This is keeps potentially here Power alive. They have stalled out the pressure, allowing the zone to put the pressure on these other teams.
Catan goes down, Bumper goes down. Power pick up another elimination point, and they have gotten themselves back up as a 3-person team. By the grace of the PUBG Mobile gods, they're staying alive, but RTG are across the road.
And they're coming forward. They send their own beautiful series of nades through. That one almost hit it once more, but it's a bit short. And J9, also under fire, will step back themselves once more. Hamodi also going to fall for NIGMA. It's a 2 need to move, but here comes GEEKAY on the move, onto 90th minute, and now it's 90th's turn to step up. It's a 2v2, and it's even Stevens. Oh, Nate. Road to glory.
I thought that was going to connect.
I know, same. I thought it was. I felt it going on the edge of my seat, Imperium, but GEEKAY, it don't. And now, GEEKAY losing one. Ragnar also making the revive slowly. 90th minute, continuing to survive. It's all about the stalling for 90th. More smokes laden down, slowing the approach of GEEKAY.
Toto. Emad. 2 players left up. It's a 2v2. Lovely spraying through the smoke.
Gets to one, but will they go for the punish? Very risky indeed. It's on the edge of the zone. 90th, they're too afraid. They've run out of smoke, so and now GEEKAY, they go for the push. Ragnar burned away though. Choto grabbed Sky. Freak got Ragnar from NIGMA. NIGMA may have just helped 90th get into now the top 4. 90th surviving here in the final game to get to this Super Weekend.
I'm pretty sure that's it. They've secured their spot in the Super Weekend number 3. They started this final game taking a fight against 4K and losing 2 players. They disengaged. They ran with their tail between their legs, but their tails were firmly in the middle of the circle. And they survived up until the top 4. Can they continue further? It would be a little bit of a cherry on top if they were to even grab a chicken dinner. However, it is unlikely.
It's a very unlikely position. They're still outside of the zone. Power know exactly the 90th are here. The shots were extremely loud. So do NIGMA too. NIGMA firing onto RTG though. It's a bigger fish inside of his final game. Makes their move off the mountaintop. 90th are there to stop him. 90th are looking for the punish, looking for the spray. They can't quite find it. Lord will take down Choto though, as Emad at least will grab the final one they were looking for RTG.
Power. Just powering into these circles. I think RTG have been a little bit quiet. I believe they could have been more proactive in the previous couple of minutes, maybe punishing Power, maybe punishing NIGMA. We'll have to wait and see as this side of 90th minute they go down.
And Power slowly staying alive. How do they do it into the top 2? Imperium, they've been in the midst of everyone, but they carefully calculated, kept their position under control. And now it's NIGMA versus Power for the final chicken dinner.
Power wanted it more. They fought for it more. They were down to 2 players at one point. Got the revive onto 1. Now they're a 3-person team. Up to 8 eliminations into the top 2. Signed, sealed, delivered in the 3rd Super Weekend.
Looking for that fast track delivery of the chicken dinner into their hands. Still one more present to grab. Alahi stepping over as the nades continue to go wide. Power just feel like they are angels when it comes to dodging the holy grace of the nades, but they send one packing like the devils they are. Is now Modi, a second one on target. Blind over the top, grabs the double. Rauf now looks like it was on target, but Rauf steps back out of the way. Another molly straight onto their head and is inflamed through the other side of NIGMA.
Don't waste all of your utility, Power. I know you're confident off the back of what was an elimination through some nades. Slow down. You've whittled it to a 3v3. You don't know how much utility NIGMA have. They could be biding their time. The next circle centers up once again. The road is directly in the middle. None of these teams are going to have to push across the other side.
Another move in on the circle. The circle's going to be the deciding moment. Freak and Lord very far away. Is Lord looking for the flank versus this is Indar Alahi locked in the 2v2. Both the zone now moving in, however, and neither of these teams willing to move.
I appreciate that Lord is still outside the circle, as is. Both teams are looking for the same play style, the same finish.
NIGMA moving in, looking for a chicken dinner. Power still up, still no one going down as the nades continue to rain apart. And NIGMA landing the same spot, but no one's there. Power on home in that location, I'm afraid. And a lot of the utility also wasted by NIGMA. Power, it bought their time indeed, but they have one more ridge to come across. So did NIGMA.
Power just whittled together, and that makes it so much easier for NIGMA to push on in.
Boom comes the grenade. NIGMA, that was the triple, and that was a flush. NIGMA Galaxy, the team heading into PMWI, close out our league stage in style. Imperium with a fantastic triple finish.
Great finish, and I think NIGMA kind of really used the time a little bit, just a little bit more cleanly compared to Power Esports at the end. You can see that they held back on the utility, and it's not that Power panicked. I think Power got a little bit too excited, and they were like, "Oh, let's just throw the utility. Let's just throw the utility." Where NIGMA were like, "Slow down. We'll wait for the next circle shift. We'll wait for the blue zone to close in." And as it did, it meant that Power will automatically huddle together. So it made the utility so much easier to connect by NIGMA. And they close it out in the end. But so much credit to Power. They played such a good game. Such an exciting, well-rounded, well-fought, well-protected, well-defended game in this final Miramar battle.
Look, it was phenomenal through from Power to get to that second position. NIGMA also played very, very careful to get that chicken dinner as well, getting those positions inside the shed to get to that final position in the zone. But you have to talk about Imperium. 90th minute here, making it work with a final game.
Like, Jesus, it's wild. You know, is it the prettiest way of making it into the final Super Weekend? No, it's not. It's frankly not. And they still have, they're not going to have much time, but they have so much to do if they're really going to make it into the finals. Let's be fair. But like I said, in terms of like,
I mean,
not
also
running
to be fair,
before you can walk.
YALLA, VISTA, triple, making it in.
Yeah, but they that's fine. Like VISTA making it in is not really a threat to 90th minute, because 90th minute have 100 points ahead of VISTA, right? It's not really a threat. It's how much of a challenge is required for 90th minute compared to the teams ahead of them. And yeah, okay, they got 11 points in that final game, but again, it wasn't the prettiest way of getting them.
Like, we check out the second page, Imperium here, 4K. Looks a bit unfortunate for them, only 3 points here, and the rest down below.
Yeah, 4K not going to make it into the third Super Weekend. They are okay when it comes to the finals position. Like I said, 215 points coming into this third Super Weekend. They're only going to make 2 out of the 3, but it should be okay. It just hurts their preparation for the finals. CONQUEROR were already into the third Super Weekend. They're looking overall a lot healthier, along with the likes of Team FALCONS, even to an extent the only one Esports. It twists the minds, man. They choked. They choked hard in that game.
It's unfortunate. It is unfortunate indeed as we check out the overall standings now of our league stage. So the last 2 days, YALLA crowned themselves on top with their 2 chicken dinners today with those 114 points. NASR, Falcons below. But it's these important teams that we were looking at to get into these standings. CONQUEROR, SKYROCKET, and RTG down in those bottom 3 spots of the first page. They all needed to get those qualification spaces.
Man, it's great for the top 8, fantastic for Falcons, fantastic for likes of CONQUEROR. It's great. It's fine. It's going to make this final Super Weekend extremely challenging for some of the teams that are kind of a little bit lower down, which I will get into. The good thing as we move into the second page of the overall standings is that RAD will not have made it into the third Super Weekend. And to me, they are technically the cutoff point for some of the lower teams because they're on a total of 193 points, right?
Exactly.
And with 90th minute getting into the final Super Weekend, they're on a total of 100 points for the first Super Weekend. So if they double their total points, that will be 200, and that will be more than RAD, right? So that's why I say what's really kind of exciting is that we do have that non-moving target for all the teams down in the bottom of the overall standings in the Super Weekend. It's very, very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, RAD, they should make it. I don't see another season where RAD don't make the finals, and it would be very unfortunate considering still RAD, the amazing work they have done. I think they should be safe. They are, as you say, more of a target. And as we check out that last page to Imperium, it is more about those teams like 90th, like Falcons, to continue to keep a good performance going and stave off the rest of these teams around them.
It's just, you know, unfortunately, without the help of the third Super Weekend, Twisted Minds and 4K, and if you're right about RAD, they're going to have to, you know, use every day, every waking hour, every moment of training they can to prepare for the finals. Once again, commiserations to Cur 12, a hell of a fight you put up, making into the second Super Weekend. And it was such a confident performance in the second league week that I really hoped that would translate to similarities in terms of result of the second Super Weekend. But it wasn't the way it went down, and I would argue that clearly knocked their confidence and their focus coming into third league week. And as a professional player, as a professional team, you can't let that happen. You got to be able to dust it off. And yeah, they're not going to be in the finals of the PMPL Arabia Fall Split.
Look, we've requested a bit of an extra special thing in Imperium. We were talking about all of those Super Weekend points, and well, we thought here, what better than not, but to show those points here, the overall Super Weekend standings of what these teams are going into tomorrow looking like.
Yeah, it's great to be able to provide this visual context. Again, Twisted Minds, 249 points. They're great. They're just missing out on the opportunity of a couple of grand from chicken dinners. Similar with 4K, 215. Exciting to see if anybody's going to be able to challenge the GEEKAY Esports in the top of the standing. 7 chicken dinners, 364 points. Pretty incredible from them.
And I think also, to be fair, very incredible. We had to, of course, re-mention it. GEEKAY, 7 winner chicken dinners already, and they're qualified for the next Super Weekend. This may be the time that we break the streak of 9 that currently R8 hold from that last season. If they can get to 10, they will be the new record holders for the amount of chicken dinners earned in 3 Super Weekends.
I would love to see it because it's something that has always been talked about in PMPLs of that team getting double-digit chicken dinners. You know, especially when we've involved the $1,000 per chicken dinner. So excited to see if GEEKAY can do it. It certainly is within their grasp as we move on to the second page of the overall standings in the Super Weekend points. This is where things get. It's where things get very, very, very tricky.
Yeah, I mean, CONQUEROR Falcons, they are very close to that elimination space. Unfortunately, just behind the only one who needs, quite frankly, to pull out a mega performance. Now, OOREDOO,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, like technically they need to pull off a mega performance, but I would argue that based on kind of your logic of Rad making it in, the only one only need 60 points in 15 games.
Okay, but hear me out.
Right?
Is that I feel like they'll get there. I feel like I have the confidence that the only one will get there. I'm more worried about the finals, right? Because the only one in every Super Weekend, they've been some of the lowest scoring points. So I feel like now, if they can show us that mega performance, that's like the confidence marker for not only us, but for the team. And if they don't get that and they have another kind of mediocre performance where you see like Falcons are almost there to the only one with 15 less games, I'm very worried for the consistency that the only one can show in 18 games later in July.
13th down to 16th of this overall standings are all in the third Super Weekend. So the race for that kind of non-moving target of 193 points is going to be exciting to begin with. Who will be the first team to move ahead of Rad, right? Who will be the first team to move across, and how much harder is it going to be not only for the 13th to the 16th, but the teams below them?
Look, it's all but getting close to an end, and fortunately so is the Grizzly Bar card collection here in Imperium. Only 2 more days to join the card collection draw and win outfits. There is a chance, of course, to get all the pieces of an item in one go, but you've got to mention it. 2 more days, and then it's gone. That's it. No more bears. No more bear facts. I can't believe it.
I might throw a random bear fact in there, much like I am right now in the form of, which one will I pick? Because I have a number ready. I'm gonna go for a little bit of a sadistic one.
Okay, I'm ready.
Adult bears sometimes kill bear cubs.
What? No,
I know.
You can't. You can't bring me that fact and tell me that at the end of broadcast.
Look,
I'm so sad now.
It's a bear fact. I have to put it out there. Why not?
Look, I'm kind of disappointed. But I mean, overall, what I haven't been disappointed in is so far this league stage, and it is, as always, so. In game to the Grand Banquet, get ingredients to make more dishes. Let's share and spread our happiness, Imperium, because we've got a brilliant now Super Weekend on our hands. And if you want to get your hands too, of course, on that group purchase, well, draw to a discount and for free every day. If I can put my words out, for free here, up to 70%.
You're getting there, Highland Wolf.
I know, I'm getting it. It's the end of the day. I'm still traumatized by the fact that you told me that like the adult bears kind of get rid of the bear cubs, and I just can't quite comprehend that like we've gotten to that point.
It's fine. I'll let you away with it. I'll let you away with it. But we showed the first 2 pages of the overall standings in the third Super Weekend, but we haven't shown the bottom page of, you know, where it becomes very, very challenging. So let's get that third page up and highlight the teams who are in the running. SKYROCKET, 90th minute. We don't see Cur 12, so we can kind of wipe them off. But VISTA Gaming, this is going to be their very first Super Weekend. They have 0 points secured, and this is going to be a massive mountain for them to climb.
104 points for SKYROCKET. They need to get that up. So do, of course, 90th. Commiserations once more to Kurt, who will not be competing any longer in the tournament. The first eliminated team confirmed. But VISTA now jumping in. VISTA had the biggest climb of everyone, and it's got to be a mega climb indeed for all of these teams, and we'll see them tomorrow, same time, same place, with yourself and Monica for the final Super Weekend. See you there.
ايسبورت متواون كل العناء من لاعبي فريق نجمة جالاكسي متقدم شوت ولكن من بعيد فري رابع نجمة جالاكسي والكل بالكل النجمة جالاكسي.
Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all, but this is how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is will you get back up when you fall. You better get up. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. I need you to get up. Get up. You witnessing a champ in the making, fueled by your passion for greatness. Yeah, but adversity and bad situations meet us in the middle of the paths that we taking. But it's what you do after that makes men. Will you quit or will you stand up and face it? Tell me, do you have what it takes to swing back when this life asks for the fade? Can you tell me you'll adapt to the change when a punch lands and it puts you flat on your face? After you wake, will you stand up and say, get mad, hit back, lit match to the flames? Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all, but this is how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is will you get back up when you fall.